In this video, we're going to be carrying on taking a look at each and every 4 threat in Marvel Crisis Protocol. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Me Gaming. I hope everyone is doing fantastically well. Welcome to this part 2 of what will end up being another 3-part tier list. In this one, we're in the middle of looking at all of our 4 threats, and joining me as ever to go through all of these is Mr. Quinn Duggan. Quinn, how the hell are you doing, sir? Always so happy. Always so happy.
I love being here. I'm not contractually obligated to be here, I promise.
As we like to do, Quinn, I've been scouring the comments, and I do try and reply to as many as I can. I haven't been as good with this one, but there's a few questions about a lot of characters, right? As there always is, because if we put somebody's favourite lower down, people are always going to be upset by that. But I think the biggest ones and people are calling out for them and saying that they are actually quite egregious and meet our criteria for S tier. Can you guess which 2 it is, Quinn?
Is it Bill and Dynamo?
It's Bill and Dynamo. It's Bill and Dynamo. So let's have a little think about those 2. Let's bring these up first of all, so we can see where we were last video. And I think let's start with Dynamo first, Quinn, and maybe, because I think I agree that in the right scenario, which is, you know, his perfect place is an E map, right? If you're playing Gamma and Researcher, he's having a good time. And his big thing of those rerolls isn't, well, his biggest thing of the rerolls, his next biggest thing is his beam attack that just fuels those rerolls. I think I would agree that in those situations, he is quite egregious.
He feels like very, very oppressive in those situations. Like,
but
trust me, I've been in those situations plenty of times. I hate the bastard, but there are ways around him.
Yes, yeah, there are ways around him, and I think there's a couple of reasons why I personally didn't think he needs, or don't think he needs nerfing. And that's what we're saying with S tier, isn't it? Is that if you're in S tier, you need knocking down, right? Something needs to change on your card. And I think there's 2 things that go against him. First of all, his map layout is huge. If it's the wrong map layout, he's not having a good time.
If it's the wrong map layout, like the fact that he is slow as hell just disproves him.
Yeah. And also, you can displace him very easily. And once he's being displaced, he isn't doing anything, right? He isn't there to contribute. And if we contrast that with, let's say, I'm going to pick Miles, right? Another leader that was in S tier who we said was egregious. There's nothing you can do other than just, you know, beating him to a pulp, but then you could argue that that is the counter to every character in the game, right? But there's nothing you can do against Miles. If Miles has the power to do what he wants to do, there's nothing you can do to stop it. Whereas with Dynamo, I feel like there is, and it's a much easier thing to deal with than dealing with somebody like a Miles with all of the tech that he's got access to and things like that.
Yeah, like, I don't disagree. I'd also argue, like, yeah, sure, beating the crap out of someone is a great way to counter them for a round. And then they wake up with all of their kit online and probably have prio, and it's like, cool.
Yeah.
Like, so as much as I'm an attrition player, beating the crap out of people isn't usually the way that games are won.
No, not at all. Not at all. So the question then is that do we think Dynamo should be higher up on that A tier? But before we go to that, Let's talk about Bill. And this is going to be addressing about
Yeah.
80% of the comments that were on this video.
They were all about Bill and Bishop, right? From
Bill
what I
Bishop
saw.
and Dynamo, yeah. So let's talk about Bill, and again why he's not in S tier, because that was the big call out, and I do think it is because of the loss of two reasons. The loss of Eyes on the Prize was huge for Bill, right? If Eyes on the Prize existed, Bill would have been top of S tier for 4 threats.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone would have displaced him. Like I just don't think they would have done. Now he's lost that, but that doesn't mean that he's a bad character still. I don't think there's anything egregious enough that can't be dealt with that puts him up there. Yes, he's got the damage reduction, right? So he can reduce his damage down to 0 effectively. But he has to pay a power for it. He's got a okay builder, let's be perfectly honest. Like, if we're talking about egregious characters, a 5 dice with no rerolls that does
I
stun.
think that is arguably one of the biggest balancing factors of Bill, is that his attacks aren't very good for they're decent. Like, you know, if you put them on certain other characters, they'd be incredible. But like with his kit as it stands, I don't think his attacks are very good, because Stormbreaker is, like, you know, a slightly above par strike for a 3 threat.
Yeah. I mean, is it above par?
It's got a wild stun.
5 dice range 2? I think we're saying, right? I think we're saying range 2, 5 dice is the baseline, and anything on top of that is...
It's got like a little stun on top of it. Like, that is not a very good builder for a 4 threat. Summon the Storm costs 2 power, which is everything he generates in a turn.
Yeah. And this is the problem.
If people are punching him, he's spending that power to reduce the damage. He's not going to have a massive excess of power on him in order to do all of these things.
No, unless you get lucky.
9 times out of 10, like, your throw's better.
Yeah. And this is, and I think, I do think that is, by the way, this is not saying that Bill is a bad character, by the way. He's still one of the best 4 threats in the game. But as you sort of pointed out to, Quinn, his inability to easily generate power, that is what tempers the rest of his kit, right? Because he can't do everything. It's rare that you get to do all of the things with Bill, because he just can't do them all. He also doesn't have any form of out of action move. He's got the aggressive, obviously, but he needs to take damage for that. But during his turn, he can't get about the board unless he's using Rainbow Bridge, and then you're spending 3 power on that, which, you know, isn't the best. So whilst I think he's good, I think without access to Eyes on the Prize and the fact that Brothers in Arms is restricted, right? That is an increased opportunity cost. I don't think he needs changing. I think he's a good balanced character. And I think that means he doesn't meet the requirements of going into S tier. I think
I would also argue that, because of recent releases, there is a bias against Bill or towards Bill in terms of being a character in need of changing. Bill isn't the character in that combo that needs changing.
No. It is Thor.
It is Thor. Thor is the one that needs changing. If Thor changes, then Bill is fine. Bill is not the problem child.
Yeah. Well, Bill's not the one that's, again, yes, he's got 2 energy attacks, but guess what? He needs to spend power to use them energy attacks, and he's rarely going to be able to generate enough
any power.
Exactly.
They're just... God Hunter's such a weird spender.
It can be good, but equally...
It can be good, but, why is the trigger, one of each?
Yeah, no, it's really weird, isn't it? It's, but I do think, Quinn, I do think if we're looking at, A tier is very good with splash, that we see splashed a lot.
Yeah, splash potential.
I do think Bill and Dynamo are definitely splashed more than Bishop and Black Panther. So it's whether or not do we think either of those need to move up in the A
My
tier.
thing with this is always, people always go, oh, this character splashed way more than this character. You never see this character splashed. That isn't necessarily the requirement for A. A is good enough to be splashed.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Are actually splashed, I don't think factors into it, because, let's be honest, Black Panther was one of the first releases for the game. There's a reason you don't see him splashed that much anymore.
He's not new and shiny.
Bored of it, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Let's be honest. If like Black Panther came out tomorrow, it'd be in a lot of lists. I think.
Maybe. It's very solid. Very solid. And I think we used the word consistent, I think was the word that we discussed.
Panther's consistency in terms of the fact he always gets the push, depending on target. He can get those re-rolls. He counts blanks on defense on his healthy side. He's got that long move and the pounce so he can very, very regularly be where he needs to be. Those are all really positive factors for him, and I think they do influence the splashability of a character, right?
Yeah. Well, let's leave them there for the moment, Quinn. I want to discuss, and again, I think somebody argued for almost every character to be higher or indeed lower than what they were. But as always, they are.
Saying that Blade was, compared to Ancient One, not that bad. Ancient One can range 2 place themselves. It's not even a competition.
Yeah. But I do want to talk about Blade, because I want to talk about his leadership.
His leadership's great. The rest of him, shit.
And the leadership is so good. Does that do enough
I don't think it does.
to get him just outside of D and up to the bottom end of C tier?
I would argue that there would be potential for that if it weren't a very regular thing for Midnight Suns players to only play him for the leadership.
That's fair.
Because if the one thing people are taking you for is something that's another model can be released and completely negate, let's have a look at Elsa Bloodstone when she comes out. Because let's be honest, you're probably not going to see Blade again for a very long time unless you get some more help.
And that'll be the tell, right? That will be the tell. But yeah, okay, right. With all that said and done, Quinn, let's jump in and let's start with our second part of this. Okay, guys, before we jump into it, just a quick correction. I had missed Dr. Voodoo off, so Dr. Voodoo was in there as well. So, Quinn, we're going to be starting out with Max Dillon, aka Electro. One of the newer characters, doesn't feel new anymore, but definitely one of the newer characters in the game. 343, 6 stamina, size 2, short move, but he's on a medium base. But let's be honest, this boy can get about the board a lot. Ride the wave, spend 2. Choose a terrain feature of size 2 or greater within 3 and place yourself anywhere within 2. So the fact that he only moves short really doesn't matter because he can just get to...
It matters round 1 and that's it.
And that's it, yeah. Electric Discharge, I think this is a really good builder, Quinn. Range 4, Strength 5. We spoke about Range 2, Strength 5 being the baseline for a lot of things. With a wild shock, as you'd imagine, Electro is all about dishing out the shocks. Livewire, this is Tricks and Traps-esque. Somebody ends a movement within 3.
It's better odds Tricks and Traps, yeah.
Better odds?
Yeah,
Oh, because it's a
normal tricks and
hit.
traps is 2 in 8 faces. This is 3 in 8 faces.
Yeah, because it's a hit and a crit, not a wild. And then he does have that electrostatic, doesn't he? Where anyone who attacks him within 3, spend 1, give them shock, do a damage, which can be really nice just to neuter that follow-up attack, or indeed act as a deterrent because somebody's alive on 1 health.
Yeah.
Flight, as you'd imagine, which is really only a hindrance when you're a short mover, because there's just things against you. And then,
I mean, if your ally has a way to advance you out of turn, they can advance you onto terrain
that's
that's
true.
bigger than you.
That
Like,
is
you know,
true. That is
something.
true. Yeah. And then immunity shock, right? Because he just sucks it all up. I really like Electro Quinn. I think he's pretty good. Great addition to the Spider Foes roster.
Yeah.
He's also a criminal syndicate as well. Sorry, he's in criminal syndicate, which I think he can definitely do a job under most of those leaderships as well.
Yeah, but let's be honest, he's really a foes character.
He's really a
Like,
foes
I've
character.
not really seen him anywhere other than foes, and I think it's probably for good reason. Like,
Yeah.
he's a solid character, but he's not, he's not splashing anywhere.
Well, he's either dealing damage at range or, well, that's usually it, right? He's a bit of a he's a bit of a point holder, but I think he's really good. I really like him. He does have a little cheeky team up card, Quinn, called Static Arc. Him and Sandman, and it is quite it can do a job, right? So, and it's quite interesting. So if Sandman and all allied sand constructs are within 5 of each other, Sandman and Electro may spend 1 power. Draw a line between each allied sand construct and other allied sand constructs and Sandman. Each enemy character that overlaps by 1 or more of these lines suffers 1 damage and gains the shock special condition. I don't know the ruling on how you
for a damage and a shock.
but I don't know the
Also,
ruling
it doesn't
on how
say straight
you...
line, does it?
It doesn't, no. Like, there must be a ruling somewhere that it is the shortest distance possible between those
If
two
I
bases.
can I just draw like a spiral outwards from one of them until it reaches the other and just get the entire board?
Also, the fact that it's each enemy that is overlapped by 1 or more, not a damage per line, which I think would have been better. Especially on an E map, right? That could be quite cool on an E map where you've got sand constructs at one side, Sandman on the other, and it just 2 lines that go up and down it. I think it's a bit of a fluff card. It's fine if you want to play it, but
like, I mean, for a start, you've got to have the sand constructs alive, and as we'll get to when we talk about Sandman, easier said than done.
It really is. It really is. But with all that said and done, Quinn, where do we think Mr. Dillon goes?
He's fine. Like, I don't think he needs any help necessarily. Like, he'd love an extra power turn 1, but what character wouldn't?
I mean, I think any character would, right?
he does a job. Like, he's a solid piece in affiliation. That really feels like just the hallmark for B. Right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think he's B. I think in terms of where he goes in B, I mean, I'm looking at Voodoo and looking at like somewhere either side of Voodoo.
I tell you what, I want to put him to the lower end of where Voodoo is, but I also want to make a quick amendment to the list.
Well, that's allowed. We do this.
I want to swap Swan and Colossus.
I think that's fair. I think Swan is very dependent on
that gem.
The gem.
Not quite to the same degree that Corvus is. To be honest, Corvus could probably end up in C, depending.
There's a half a chance that Corvus does end up down here.
Like, that line separating those two is like, it's very thin.
Oh yes. And B Quinn is 4.
The bald-headed option is better.
The bald-headed option is better. I don't think
Yeah,
so.
because he's got the stupid like star mask, and then he's got like the bald like singed head, and like one of them is clearly a lot better than the other.
Yeah, the Starman one.
No, fuck off, Bowie.
Electro next, Quinn. Electra Natchios. She has had a change already.
Yeah,
I don't think it was good enough. It may have even made her worse in some situations. 433. She brings the hand ninjas as her grunts. 6 stamina on the front. I want to say 5 on the back. Yeah. Stealth. I mean, she's actually got some really good stuff on her card. The problem is she doesn't generate enough power to be able to do.
Even now, having gained a flat power on her builder,
still not enough.
Right.
Still not enough because it's not a bad builder, Quinn. Range 5 with a Pierce, and that's what brings the hand ninjas in. So it's a. So I think some others have to pay for them, don't they, to bring them back in. But the fact it brings it in off the back of that is nice. Out for blood. I mean, it does mean that when she deals damage, she gets an extra power. So if you deal a damage with Ancient Throwing Blades, it's generating 2. But
that only makes it better than a normal builder in the very, very niche situation. Not very niche, but in the niche situation where you do exactly 1 damage.
Yes.
If you do anything more than exactly 1, they're at a minimum the same at 2
parity.
Damage.
Yeah.
Anything beyond that, a normal builder is so much better.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Impale again, not bad, but the fact that you've got to be. I mean, why is there? I mean, we spoke about Bucky's range 1, right? With his rerolls. For me, range 1 should be reserved for transformations and picking stuff up.
Like,
Yeah,
I
a
get
range
what
1
they're
attack.
going for in terms of it being range 1, because it's like, she's got up close and she stabbed them. But it's already very clearly established in this game that range 2 is melee.
Yeah. So why does it need to be anything less? And I know she's got the assassin step. When this character deals damage to an enemy character with an attack, after the attack is resolved, you may use the superpower and place yourself within 1. That costs 2. So if you're not
0,
if you're not already within range 1, you need 7 power to be able to do an impale. It just doesn't work. If that costs 0, Quinn, I actually think
it's
the
still
other
got
stuff
a
would be.
qualifier on it as well if you haven't done damage. Like, so that feels fine. Like, just
Yeah.
Why is she so bad?
Definitely a character that needs help, Quinn. There's a reason you don't see her in places. Her tactics cards are horrendous. I mean, she has 1. Oh, no, she has 2. She's got Bounty Hunters, which is her or Taskmaster. And you basically get to make an action after you daze or KO a character. Whereas VPs, right, usurp the throne and whatever else give you VPs, you get to make an action. Or she does also have Vendetta. When an allied character is dazed or KO'd by an enemy effect, Electra may play this card. Mark the enemy character that caused the effect with a Vendetta token. The next attack adds 3 dice. So basically, a 4-threat character has the same thing as Drax.
But only once.
But
and on
only
a card.
once. And it's a tactics card. Yeah, it's not good. It is not good. I mean, I think we can agree, Quinn, that she's D tier. She needs a lot of help.
Yeah, she needs a lot of help.
Is she
but Blade's
better
than her, I think.
Is she better or worse than Carnage? I feel like that's where we're at.
I think she's just better than Carnage. Like, she doesn't die to a stiff breeze.
She has stealth, at least.
Yeah.
Like, that's a thing. And Dequin is 4.
Dostoevsky, her favourite author.
Is that from the Daredevil TV show? Or was that from the comics as well?
Yes.
Or have you just made that up?
You can't prove that I made it up.
I mean, I can go and look, but yeah.
No, but look, it managed to get you for long enough that I have like legal immunity now. Like,
fair.
I can't be tried for my lies. It fooled someone for more than a few seconds.
Okay, Quinn. Let's talk about one of your favourite mutants in not just this game, but all media.
I mean,
Emma
I
Frost.
argue that she's one of my favourite mutants outside of this game.
Yeah, Emma Frost. Transform character. She's 235 on her normal side. Goes to 4s across the board, I want to say. 4s across the board on her other side. This side, her normal side, is all around mystic damage. She's got long range. Bend Will is pretty darn good, Quinn. On the psychic spike. Power equal to damage dealt. Hands off is pretty
also
good.
Mystique.
She's also Mystique.
Which I think is important to mention, like, during the attacks, because, suddenly these attacks that seem relatively normal, they're actually attacks that ignore, a lot of defensive tech in the game.
Yeah, no reactive superpowers, no reactive team tactics cards. She can just spend 2 power and make herself immune to collision. That thing that like all the convocation people can't do. She can do it.
I feel like that should have been like part of either side of the convocation leadership.
Yeah.
That
would have been good.
Like went to go have like a main bit of it and then like a little extra kicker. Like that should have been the main bit of it, and then whatever side you run gave you like the extra kicker of whatever the current leadership is.
Maybe a dice roll as well, making it like that, so that it wasn't a pay power and do X. It was like up to the gods. Shield Mind, when this character or an allied character in 4 would be placed, pushed by an enemy mystic or superpower, you just stop it. Right? We've seen it before. Used to be a lot more prevalent against things like Thanos, who was just moving everyone for days. But now the fact that most of those, not all, have been limited to once per turn. This has less value, I would say, but on her Frost, on a Diamond side, sorry, not Frost side, she goes into physical attacks.
Yeah.
But she's also immune to bleed, incinerate, poison, stun. But she does have to transform back at the end of her activation. She does lose, Quinn, her ability to stop anything being turned off. So she doesn't turn off reactives.
Well, yeah, because she can't do her whole.
She can't do the mind thing.
Form.
Yeah, and she also can't play
her
tactics
defenses
cards.
do change.
Yeah, falls across the board, which is said.
Falls across
yeah.
the board, and which I'll be honest is very disappointing for like the diamond form of Emma. Like that was like the bare minimum of what should have changed. She should have a damage reduction of minimum 1.
I'd argue 2.
Potentially 2.
Yeah.
And I don't think it'd be like insane. Like Hood has that as a 3 threat.
Yeah. Slightly lower health pool, slightly lower defense, but yeah, as long as you make it.
I would happy to make Emma like a 5/5 if she got that. By all means, give her less stamina. Like that feels fine.
But Quinn, let's be honest, right? Let's be honest. Emma as a character standalone is fine, right? There's nothing. I would say you could change a couple of things here and there. I think she's fine. It's when we get onto her tactics cards, Quinn, that it becomes a problem. So let's start, because
Do
she
we
does have
to talk
access.
about it?
She's got access to 4. And let's go through them in order of worst to best. Untapped potential. We already spoke about this with Iceman.
Heroin.
Yeah, it exists. Headmistress is pretty good, I'd argue, Quinn. It's an X-Men only card. Pay X. Each character, pay X during her activation. For each power spent, an allied character that is not holding an objective token may advance medium. It's pretty good of, being able to get somebody up the board.
If you're already playing her in an X-Men team, and your plan was already to do to me my X-Men turn 1, why not take this instead?
Yeah.
You get a medium move instead of a short one. There you go.
Yeah, it's fair. Mind transfer, which is niche, but can, in a pinch, it can do really good work.
I believe it did something quite impactful during one of the TTS.
I believe finales. It did. Yeah. So, cost 4 power. Choose an enemy character with an activated token within 3 of Emma Frost. Move that activated token from the chosen character to another enemy character that does not have the activated token within 2. Just being able to go, you've been, and actually now you're big hitter because you were holding him back, or sometimes, Quinn, I like to hold back a character that has like displacement and things like that as my last activation, and you just go, no. So I'd say it's niche. It's by no means a stapled on card to Emma, but can be very, very impactful. But Quinn, we'll talk about my Hellfire Club. Now it's worth saying
my Hellfire Club. It's AMG's Hellfire Club.
So first of all, it has been restricted. Okay. So there is an increased opportunity cost to take this card. But from the outset, it's the type of card, Quinn, that we don't like, do we? This makes anybody become part of the Hellfire Club affiliation, regardless of who you're taking. And then on top of that, you also get the leadership. So the Hellfire Club leadership, once per round, at the end of an allied character's activation, Emma Frost may use this leadership ability. When she does, all other allied characters contesting or holding objective tokens gain 1 power and remove 1 damage. All other allied characters not contesting or holding objective tokens lose a power, suffer a damage, and then Emma gains 1 power for each power lost and may remove 1 damage for each damage suffered. And it basically just turns on so many things for so many characters. And the fact that you can take anyone you want. So I think we're probably going to spend a little bit more time, Quinn, because Emma is egregious, but she's egregious because of this card. So let's talk about this card, Quinn, and what we could do to solve the issue. Because I just whacked my own microphone there. I'm going to say it now, even as a Dracula player right now, I'm going to throw out a blanket statement. I want all of these cards to be errated. I think there is only one person in this game who should have a leadership that means you can take anyone. It's Dormammu. We'll get onto him. I think everybody else, there should be some qualifying factors. I think it's a fairly obvious one for this one, Quinn, but what do you think we should do to make it better?
I think we should borrow from another one of AMG's games.
What game would that be? Is it Armada? Is it Armada?
It's Armada, yes. It's the game I arguably prefer to MCP. It's Shatterpoint. I like me Star Wars. They go vwum with their swords.
I do love some good vwooming.
Yeah. Shatterpoint has a thing called tags, which are just little, little qualifiers at the bottom of character cards that are just, you are this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, and this thing.
Yep.
You could very easily port that over to MCP and be like, oh, this character's a mutant. This character's a mutant. This character's not a mutant. Therefore, they don't get the mutant tag.
Well, and that's the thing in the comics, right? Well, not just the comics. The Hellfire Club is a mutant club.
And I know there are going to be people out there that go, oh, Tony Stark was in it. I don't care.
No.
Right? Hellfire Club, mutant thing. I don't care about like a comic from 40, 50 odd years ago.
Well,
it's a mutant thing.
Because we talk about balance, right? That like we talk a lot about like, why is this character not in this affiliation? Why is this not there? And it's like, well, we have to realize as players that everyone's been an Avenger at some bloody point, or everyone's been in this and everyone's been in that. And there's an element of balance. If certain characters are allowed to be put together with no restrictions, it breaks the game. And this card does that, because you can take whoever you want. Now, yes, you have to take Emma. And I would argue, Quinn, Emma is probably somewhere in B by herself, right? She's fine.
C.
But maybe even C. Like,
she's shit. I hate it.
A diamond form is not very good.
Make MS tier. Make Hellfire Club D tier. That is my demand, AMG.
Well, I don't think Hellfire Club needs to be D tier, but I do think there should be a restriction in place. And we're going to talk about all of these.
There need to be far more qualifiers. Like, there just have to be, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I would even take it, Quinn. I would actually take these qualifiers a little bit further. And whereas normally when you build a roster, you can, you have your 51% for when you've got your squad, and then you can take some splashes. I would almost go the other way with these and go, if you want to play Hellfire Club, you can only take mutants. I don't think you can take other characters. And I think access to every single mutant in this game is a bigger affiliation than anybody else has. And I think it would be perfectly fine. And it might not be the best in the game, but it wouldn't be the worst. It'd be somewhere in the middle.
The thing I'd argue as well is, like, the actual leadership isn't all that good. The reason it was good and the reason it was like the top of the meta for a long time is because there was no opportunity cost other than a card slot.
Yeah.
Like, that
one card slot.
Like, if we're going to do these changes to these, like, card-based leadership affiliations, I'd want some kind of reimbursement in terms of, like, give them a tactic card or two.
Oh, well, I also think, and just to, because I think you're right, just to counter that, this shouldn't count as one of your 5.
Yeah.
But I don't think it should count as one of your 5. So that's what you get in return, right? It's you get access to the leadership and everything else, but you get to bring essentially 6 tactics cards rather than 5 because one of them is the Hellfire Club.
They got it right with the first one of these they designed in terms of convocation, and then they just decided, no, don't like that. I'm just going to change it.
Yeah.
Why?
So, Quinn, with all that said and done, like, it's so difficult. Emma might be one of the most difficult characters in this list to actually rank because, like you say, I think she's bottom end of B. You think she's somewhere in C. We're not a million miles apart in terms
Honestly, I want to put her in D for disappointment. Fuck me.
But the Hellfire Club thing does skew the game, right? It is egregious and it does skew the game. So, like, I don't know where we put her. Like, I don't know if she needs her own special little category, or do we split this up? And what we do is we actually put Emma into, I'm going to argue for bottomish end of B, top endish of C, but we say that their Hellfire Club card, along with all of the others, needs to be changed because it's just far too egregious.
Thing is, like, I don't even know if it is egregious anymore. Like, there was definitely a point in time where it was like the most ridiculous thing in the game. But one, it's become restricted. Two, Eyes on the Prize doesn't exist anymore. And those were the two things that really made
They
it
were,
stupid. And they
yeah,
made Rhinobbery cost more. Like, they hit that Hellfire Club list in several places.
they
Right?
did
And none of
actually.
them
Do
were
you know
Emma,
what
because Emma's not actually very good.
Yeah, do you know what? Even though I said it at the beginning, I did forget it was restricted. That's the other thing I would do is remove the restriction on it as well. In terms of the restriction comes in the form of who you can take, not the card being restricted. So Quinn, we've just had a little chat off thing there about the leadership, haven't we? And the fact that this, because of the ruling on the Weapon X leadership, if she's dazed, she can't use this because it specifies that she has to use the leadership. So if she's dazed, she can't do it. So that does make the leadership worse as well. I still think, Quinn, overall, I want to see changes to these one shot, one card leaderships. Maybe that's a separate video that we do. I don't think her diamond form is very good.
I would argue it is actively bad.
But I think when we still take into account that she can bring anyone she wants, so she always has access to the best characters, I think she needs C tier as she needs a change, and I also think my Hellfire Club needs a change as well. And there's a few things that we change about it. So C tier, are we happy with that, Quinn? She's in the she needs a change category.
I'm not even happy that she's on the list. I'm not happy that she was ever released in this state.
Okay, do I even ask you for
Oh,
a
she's
for
not
an
getting an alphabet. No,
Wow.
this is my dirty protest. No alphabet.
This might be the first one ever since the alphabet game was introduced where you've refused. But you know, it is what it is. Amora next, Quinn, aka Enchantress, another Asgardian, another character that got toned down a little bit. Again, she had some things that were stupid.
You used to be the best character in the game. Like,
Yeah. I really, really like Enchantress. I think she falls into that category of a lot of characters that, oh, they've had the nerf, therefore they must be bad. And actually,
she's still
she's
real
still
good.
pretty darn good, especially under the, I would say, Loki leadership when you need to go
Yeah,
that
'cause of
little
the
bit
beam. Yeah.
wider because of the beam. Fishing for those extra wilds on an enthrall can be really good. Yes, she's got Amora's Kiss, where she can just, steal off somebody. That the changes were Amora's Kiss got changed to an action, which is good. Like that should be an action. There should be a cost outside of just having power to be able to do that. And also Siren's Call, I believe, got changed
Once
from
per turn.
yeah,
Rather than
using it
per
as much as
character.
you want
Yeah.
to once per turn. I also like, yes, she's a 2/2/5, but she's got the enchanting where it forces your opponent to pay the power, which is quite nice. The beam's pretty good. It's a great power generator. And again, a little bit different to Bill in that she generates a lot of power, right? She can become a little bit of a battery for a lot of Asgardian things. I think she's solid, Quinn. She does have one tactics card. We've already spoke about it. It's the team up card with Scourge, so we won't go into that one again. I quite like her, Quinn, and I'm going to say I think she's an underutilized character because I do think she falls into that, oh, she got a nerf, therefore she's bad.
Yeah, which, as we've discussed previously, is like, it's just a bias thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
just because they weren't at the heights they were doesn't mean they're actually a bad character. It just means they're a balanced character, typically.
Yeah.
There is one major weakness that she has that I think is arguably endemic of the time she was designed, rather than just being an actual, inbuilt weakness, which is the fact that she does nothing against collisions. Much like
Yes.
all of those convocation characters, like, if you're giving a character a physical defense below 3, you need a really good reason, and you probably need to do something to help them with collisions because they are a very big part of the game. Especially, matchup and map dependent, they can be really brutal.
Yeah.
Um, you could easily add just an extra line to enchanting that just says, additionally, when this character makes a dodge roll, like,
It
she
can
rolls
use
a
its
mystic
mystic.
defense.
Yeah.
Like, it'd make a fight. Like, she still goes down really fast if you're just paying to attack her with 2 defense.
She does.
Like,
Yeah, she can do. She can do. But I
yeah.
do think, but I think she's, like you say, I'd maybe change that little thing on her. But
Yeah,
again, I
but
think
like
that's a bit of a blanket.
yeah, exactly. It's a blanket change, not an Amora specific change.
Yeah.
It's a these types of characters need a little bit of help in that regard. But other than that, she's great. I really like her. I played her a lot when kind of New Asgard was coming about before, all of the horrors of Hero of Midgard,
Before the
started.
before BLT was a thing.
Yeah, before like the bombs dropped, I was playing a fair bit of her, and I really liked her under Loki. I thought she was great.
Yeah, I like her under Lucky as well because she does, she's got a terrain throw, which it's only terrain, but it's range 3 and it's medium, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
But she also can do a lot of the movement as well. So it's a different play style to the brute force that we're seeing at the moment with Asgard. It's a little bit more of a scalpel Quinn than a I was going to say a sledgehammer, but as a Mjolnir or a Stormbreaker hammer are. But I still think she's got legs. I think she can do a really good
Well, yeah,
job.
you can see them in the
You
character
can
art.
see
She's
the
definitely
legs
got
under the
legs.
thing. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. She's also in Cabal. Yeah, I don't really see her
Like
played.
Cabal to me, like at this point, doesn't even feel like it exists as an affiliation.
I mean, you've got the
Like,
115 threat thing, haven't you, with Red
well, yeah,
Skull,
but like Cabal
Thanos?
is basically a leader, and then whatever dregs you want to take in order to enable your splashes. Like
Yeah,
that's it. Like, and most
yeah,
of the time, it's just you shove Zemo in there and you're done. Like,
yeah, yeah.
Cabal doesn't feel like an affiliation.
No, not at the moment. Not at the moment. Where do we think Quinn she goes on the list? I feel like it's somewhere in B.
I think it's somewhere around Scott. I think.
Somewhere around Scott feels about right. I was actually
Yeah,
going to
like
say Quinn, the upper side of Captain Marvel.
um, hmm.
I feel like somewhere around here.
I'm happy to put her above Marvel. Like, in terms of a character in of themselves and what they do, like I think she is better. Like, I think she's just let down by what affiliation she's in for the most part.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like if she was, I don't know where else would you put her. Like if she was, I don't know, A
She'd probably
Force
see a lot
doesn't.
of play in like Crimson. She feels like a Crimson
Yeah,
character.
she
Oh,
could
I'm gonna
be.
move
Oh,
everything, and I've got beams.
yeah, that could be. Yeah, that could be a good shout. But
Like,
I think
also, I
she's.
think it's just once again, like we said with Bill, Bill isn't the problem. Mighty
It's
Thor is the problem.
it's the
I'd
things
argue,
that. Yeah,
yeah, I'd argue for the same reasons that Enchantress isn't seen as much. It's because of things like Thor, which
yeah,
isn't her problem. It's a Thor problem
yeah.
and an AMG balance problem.
Lack of balance, I would say, in some cases. And B Quinn is 4.
Beguiling beauty. There we go.
Oh, I like that one. I
You've
like
got a
that
double
one.
alphabet there with the alliteration.
Yes.
Makes up for somebody else.
Oh dear. Okay, Quinn. Next up is Frankenstein's monster, aka Adam, not Frankenstein. It's one of my pet peeves. It
Question.
go on.
Question. So you know how like Frankenstein's monster is effectively like the mad science child of Frankenstein's brain. Does that mean that his surname is Frankenstein? Is he Adam Frankenstein?
Well,
Because
I
if he were to have a surname, it would be Frankenstein, right?
well no, because he's not a child. He's not a child, is he?
But
Of
he's a creation of Frankenstein.
yeah, but Peter Quill was a creation of Ego the Living Planet, and his last name's not Living Planet.
Well, that's just because he's got his mum's last name. That's an entirely different
I know.
ballpark.
I know. I mean, maybe his full name is Adam Frankenstein, but I think he's just known as Adam.
Or maybe he's like the monster formerly known as Adam Frankenstein. Like he's kind of gone all Prince with it.
Best depicted, I'm going to say as well, by Robert De Niro in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. He's so good in that. Really good in it.
I remember watching that in English class and being like, great, he's in another barn. Because every shot of him, he was in a barn.
It was in a lot of bands. I was looking up there because I've got I'm currently painting up Dracula's castle as we speak. And Frankenstein's monster is in there. I just recently painted him up. Great model to paint. Really enjoyed it. Obviously part of the new recently released Monsters pack. So we have spoke about him quite a bit already. 433, medium base, medium move, 7 stamina on his front. I also want to say he's 7 on the back as well, which he is. Size 3. He's got Frank's fists, which technically, again, I hate the name of this because they're not Frank's fists. They're some poor dead person's fists who he's...
No. At some point, they became the legal property of Frankenstein and therefore became Frankenstein's fists.
Yes, maybe if they were not Frank's fist, they might actually do power equal to damage dealt rather than just be a flat builder.
Which, I mean, as we'll get onto, is this character's biggest problem.
Yeah. But 6, right? 6 strength, which is, 6 strength with a push. The push does need a wild hit, which I wouldn't have minded just to see a wild there. I also wouldn't have minded.
Trigger, like it would have partially made up for the poor power generation.
I also think it could have been just a push. Like after this stack resolved, size 4 or less, you may push the character. I think that would have been fine. And that would have, for me, made up for the fact that it was only a flat
it
gainer.
It would have made it so it was more of a control piece rather than just an attrition piece that lacked the power generation to do attrition.
Yeah. We got Thick Skull, cost 1. If you deal damage, they get stagger. It's only 5 dice. Like,
but if you get that damage through, it's going, your activation's gone.
It is, yeah, but I don't know. Monster's Fury, this is fine. You get dice equal to the amount of damage this character has, so it's damage that he's taken. So at most, it can be a 12 dice attack, unless you're boosting it with something else. It's got the whole Bill wild.
Well, no, it's
crit
better on
throw.
Because it doesn't need a hit.
Oh, it doesn't need that, does it? Yeah, it doesn't need that. But only size 4 or less. Throw the target character medium. There's a weird thing, isn't there, about some of these spenders that are dependent on other things to be good or bad. They get better or worse depending on the game state. If he's got 1 health left for 4 power, 12 dice, that's a pretty good attack. If he's taken no damage, you use his builder, because why would you ever, unless you were really fishing for the hurl. He does have charge, which is nice. So a bit of action economy there. Frank's Rampage, 3 power for a size 4 terrain feature throw. Like, again, compare it to Bill, compare it to Bishop. It's not a great throw, in my opinion, Quinn. It's diminishing returns.
Even worse with how bad his power economy is.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So he needs to have, if he's taken no damage, he needs to somehow have attacked twice in a turn to be able to have the 3 power generator to just be able to do this. And then replacement parts, 2 for 2. I'd have liked to have seen this 2 for 3. And the reason there is it's also some power economy, because he takes 3 damage, he gains 3 power, he can spend 2 power to get rid of 3, so he's a net 1 up. It would have just helped a little bit with his power economy.
This could have just been healing factor 2. Like,
yeah, maybe. I mean, it's. I mean, I suppose it's different because I gather the idea is it's called replacement parts, right? You're pulling.
I get it from a theming perspective, but in terms of like, making a good, viable character, like, there are a number of things that have gone wrong, Frank, I'd argue.
Or keep it as this, and it's just 0 cost, do 2. So, if you are affected by a root or something like that, it does go up in cost.
Yeah, maybe make it like, either heal 2 or remove a condition.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. As well. Immune to shock. But yeah, Quinn, we sort of mentioned it earlier, didn't we? Power generation is a big problem on this guy. He just doesn't generate anywhere near enough to do any of the things he wants to do.
No.
He does have a card, as all of them do,
Yeah.
in that box. Hideous Monster. It's a Heroes for Hire-esque. So when an enemy character targets another allied character within 3 of Frankenstein, that allied character may spend 2 to play the card. So at least he doesn't need to spend power on his own card. And it is another way of being able to, funnel power into him. Because there are very few characters in the game who are just going to one-shot a 7 health character, right? So you place Frank within 1 of the allied character, and then the kicker on this is after the attack is resolved, if Frankenstein's monster is not dazed or KO'd, roll dice equal to the amount of damage he has, not suffered, but has. The enemy character suffers 1 damage for each crit and wild rolled. If the character suffers damage, you push it away short. I actually don't mind the kick. Towards even, sorry, yeah. I actually don't mind the kicker on that one, Quinn. It's a little bit interesting. Yeah. It's a little bit something different. I think if you're taking Frank, I feel like this card, I'm calling him Frank and not Adam, but if you're taking Adam, Frankenstein's monster...
You're doing the thing you complained about.
I know. I do feel like this card is probably being taken with him. Because it is another blocker.
It's a really interesting thing where it doesn't feel like it's a staple in terms of like, oh, it's so good you always want to run it with him. It feels like a staple in terms of you need to take it for him.
If you don't take this card with him, then he's not really that viable.
He really struggles otherwise. And he has such really high potential. Like, he's basically 4-threat Drax, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is how,
absolutely.
like to describe it to people. He's 4-threat Drax, but, like, his power economy just isn't there. It's non-existent. It's really bad.
I think you could... I don't think he's far off being really good.
Oh, it just needs a tiny touch.
And do you know what I would put in there? I would put in Red Guardians. When this character suffers damage and he's not dazed or KO'd, gain a power.
Gets bonus power, yeah.
And I think that would solve, and maybe a little tweak to that builder, just make it a wild or even get rid of both the triggers. And I think he all of a sudden goes up quite high, because all of a sudden then you've got a character like that in Midnight Suns who can take advantage of a range 1 place.
Yeah.
He would be pretty darn good.
Unfortunately, we're not rating him based on the version of him.
We're not rating him based on the version, yeah. Unfortunately, Quinn, we are rating him here. And with all that said and done, I think he's going in C.
Yeah.
But I think because he's so close to being really good, because everything that he needs is in there, right? Everything he needs is in his kit. He just can't do it, and I think he goes to the top of C for me, purely because I think he is just that one, in addition, when you would, when you take damage, you gain it. As long as you're not dazed or KO'd, you gain a power. And I'd even put it as a when you take damage, not enemy damage, like some of the other ones are. Enemy from anything basically. So then all of a sudden it becomes a great gem hold. It becomes a great core power. Is it power core? No, what's the cube holder, right? Because he takes a damage, but he gets 2 power from it. Things like that. I think he could carve himself out a little niche, but right now I don't think he's there. For me, Quinn, I'd be looking at top end of C. What are your thoughts?
I think it's reasonable. Like, he needs a little touch. Like, just a little nudge in the right direction. Like, if you want to keep the theming and stuff, like, just replace Frank's Rampage with, like, he gets extra power for damage and maybe, like, an aggressive style trigger. Like,
that could be
something
cool.
like that. It'd fit the theme of Frank's Rampage. He'd lose something in order to gain it. Let's be honest, he's not losing something particularly important to him because at present, you're very rarely doing Frank's Rampage.
Can't do it. Yeah, can't do it. And Sequin is for
Creator's Bane.
Oh, see, you've taken a bit of a they've gone downhill of late, but that has just gone. The last 2, Quinn, Enchantress and Frankenstein's monster.
Are we putting those 2 alphabets in S tier? Are we?
Those 2 alphabets go in S tier, absolutely. Deadliest woman in the galaxy next, Quinn. Gamora, aka Gamora. 3s across the board, long move, 6 stamina. Godslayer is an amazing builder. Doesn't have anything particularly flashy on it other than the guaranteed bleed, but it is 6 dice, it is range 2, but because she's the deadliest woman in the galaxy, she gets to change 1 die to a hit for each wild in the attack roll. Have you ever played her under New Steve?
No, but I can imagine that's quite funny.
She's pretty good. Yeah, she's pretty good. Cosmic Assassin is a great attack. It catches a lot of people out. So it's the still 6 dice. It's range 3. It's got a pierce on there, and it's got a rapid strike. But the rapid strike must target another character within range 2 of the original, but can be any distance from Gamora. It catches a lot of people out. They think they're outside of that range, and they don't realise that actually her follow-up attack can just target anyone within range 2. She's also got Assassin's Leap. Her defensive tech is Martial Prowess, which she usually has enough power to be able to do. She's also got Stealth. She's got the team-up card with her sister, or quote-unquote sister, which is now a lot better because it only costs 1 power. Obviously, I've played her under Guardians a lot, Quinn. If you want something murdered, she's really good at murdering them. However,
equally, if you want something to be murdered, she's very good at getting murdered.
Yeah, but what I do like about this character, Quinn, is even if she goes down early doors and comes back with all that power, she is a character that can turn the game in 1 activation because of that Cosmic Assassin, because of the Assassin Leap and what she does. So yes, she is susceptible and can go down, but she can also pop the hell off when she's got a lot of power on her as well. I really like her. Like I say, I've played her in a couple of places. She's in my Dracula list at the moment because she's got some good synergy with that automatic bleed, especially now with the Dracula leadership being changed. So she can actually now become a little bit more survivable because she can heal herself a little bit as well. But she's good at murdering. I think I would argue there's only one other character on this list that is as good as murdering as she is, and it's probably Corvus. And I would argue that she is better at Corvus than murdering.
I would argue Corvus on this list is pretty crap at murdering, to be honest.
He's still good. He's still got access to things like execute and cards like that, right? If you want something taken down. I really like
I
her.
argue Apex Predator is a better murderer than Corvus.
He's not on this list yet. He's further down.
I can see his head poking up at the bottom.
You can see his head. Those people at home can't, because you get to see more. You get exclusive access to what's coming next.
Oh yeah, I get all those lovely shots of you sneezing into a tissue as well. Brilliant.
But Quinn, with all that said and done, like, her damage output is tempered by the fact that she can go down so easily, right? Throw stuff at her, hit her with anything. She's not, unless you get lucky with a martial prowess.
Even then, hit her from range 3, she can do nothing.
Yeah. But I think that's perfectly fine. I think what she gives here and loses here kind of brings her into the middle, because she is, threes across the board, is under the curve in terms of excuse me, in terms of defensive stats, isn't it? I would argue for another physical defense on Gamora. I don't think would be bad.
Full physical would be fine on her. Yeah. It's always tricky because of the existence of big dumb hero tokens, right? Because if suddenly she goes to 5 with that, that's grim.
Yeah, 5/4/4 with 7 dice builder, 7 dice spender.
It's almost like they don't think when they make Guardians tactics.
It's a very fair point, that, isn't it? It's a very, very fair point that you do have to temper her. Because she is, whilst I think she is seen elsewhere, she's fun to play under Steve too, because she just murders everything. She's not the best 4 threat splashed to put in with Steve too. You know, she's good under Dracula, but that's really not splashing. That's something a little bit different. But Guardians is her main home.
Yeah, and it's her real home.
And I would also argue that she doesn't see as much play as I think she should see in Guardians, because Bill exists.
I think very much in the same vein as like Drax, right, from the previous list. Like, she deserves to see more playtime.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. 100%. So, with all that said and done, Quinn, where do you think she goes? And then I'll either agree or argue.
She's somewhere towards the top end of B, I think. She's pretty good.
I think she's pretty good. I think if she had one more physical, she could potentially be up here, but I do agree. I feel like, I do still feel like Steve 1 is like solid top end of B. Is he going to get displaced? And if he is, I don't think it's by Gamora.
I don't think it's Gamora that does it, but I think there is plenty of opportunities for him to be displaced in this list.
Is he? I feel like she's probably either side of the Daredevil. And I don't know which.
Do we give it to Daredevil for being a leader, or do we give it to Gamora for being...
Daredevil has 4. Daredevil has better defense and will do you more throughout the duration of a game. She's great in a burst.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think there we go. And B Quinn is 4.
And Titan.
Okay. You're going to have to explain.
What? Are you telling me you don't know Gamora's surname? You just waxed lyrical for like 5 minutes about how much you love Gamora, and you don't even know her surname. Wow, okay. See the type of guy you are.
Yeah, go on then. Is that her name in the comics, is it? Her last name?
Yeah, that's like the last bit of her name is like Ben Titan, which I'm guessing comes from Hebrew in terms of real world etymology. Because like a lot of Hebrew surnames have like Ben something, meaning son of whatever.
Ah,
And
okay.
I guess
Okay.
in space it just means child of or
I
whatever.
just want to say, Quinn, you have upped your game on the alphabet game this turn round. So well done and kudos to you. And I do
I've
hope
decided to channel my rage regarding Emma into something productive.
fair. And I do hope chat appreciates it. Cool. Okay. Next up, Quinn.
You've been a proper streamer calling them chat.
I know. The comment section. Next up, we're in Green Goblin, aka Norman Osborn, a very early character who had a little bit of a glow up that I think made him.
As an OG Spider-Foes player,
Okay, he had quite a bit of a glow up, didn't he?
Glow up.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
His leadership used to cost power, Rich.
Oh, he did, didn't it? Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and he was 4 dice builder. It was terrible.
Yeah. 4-3-3. Medium move, I want to say. 7 stamina, which is like Frankenstein's monsters 7 stamina, right? That feels right. Green Goblin having 7 stamina, that feels like
Goblin sort of makes him like super tough though, right?
Yeah,
and
I mean,
also crazy, but you know.
He does drop to 5 on his reverse side, so there you go. He gets slapped back down to reality. 4-3-3 on his front. In fact, let's go through the front side first because he does change. 4-3-3, pumpkin bombs, power equal damage dealt, strength 5, physical or energy, and then bag of tricks, bleed, incinerate, poison, which is quite nice. Knight of the Goblin, again, physical or energy. If it deals damage, you give them poison and incinerate. Hit and run, we know what it does. Trick or treat, it's a little bit different, but when the enemy character ends an advance or is placed within 4 of this character may use this superpower. You choose an interactive piece of terrain, size 3 or less within 2 of them, and you blow it up, basically. And then we went through this on Carnage. It's exactly the same, but it's for Peter Parker. I don't like the arch nemesis thing. I think it needs to be removed. His other side, Quinn, because he does change quite a bit. He goes 3-3-5. He gets an extra dice on his pumpkin bombs. He drops down to 5 stamina. He loses hit and run, and he gains glider ram, which is quite nice because he is size 3, which is basically a throw, right? He throws himself. It's like pounce, and then unstable psyche. So he can't interact with or hold objective tokens, but during the power phase, he rolls 5 dice for each hit, crit, and wild rolled. He gains a power. So I like Green Goblin, Quinn, because of the differences. There's a stark difference with what he does. And I like that. I think as a character, he's absolutely fine. But let's talk about Oscorp weaponry, which is his leadership. Once per turn, when an allied character is attacking, during the modify opponent's dice step, it may re-roll 1 opposing defense dice. Which is actually quite good.
If you manage to get it to actually, remove a defense die, you're typically gaining not only a damage on the opponent, but 7 times out of 10 a power because you were attacking with a builder.
Yeah, there is only once per turn, but I think and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the numbers here are this is actually better than being able to re-roll 1 of your attack die. If you look at the numbers.
Because in terms of the odds of a successful defense die becoming a failed defense die, your odds are 5 in 8 against a normal character. Obviously, there are
there are exceptions to the rule. Yeah.
Whereas for the majority of characters in terms of offensive dice, it's a 4 in 8 chance.
Yeah. So it's a 50-50 chance that you're going to get a re-roll with a fail. And whatever 3 out of 8 is, so it's a lot. It's what 42%, I don't know, something like that. So it is effectively better than an offensive reroll, and I think a lot of people don't realize that sometimes. that it is actually better. And it also means that you can turn off some of the stuff, right? Just like you can do, like when we talk about Bishop, right? Reverse Pierce and things like that. Because you get to do this before your opponent gets to do their thing. So whereas with Pierce happens before the defensive stuff, so you can do that as well. This would happen before Bishop's defensive tech, wouldn't it? Where he counts a wild and it gets to reverse pierce somebody. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I like him. Like, let's talk about his tactics cards, Quinn, because he has some good ones. He has a good one. And I think we spoke about it with 3-threat Doc Ock, because that's his team up card. Well-laid plans. Pay 3 power each. So it does cost 6 power, but 5 dice for each enemy character holding an objective token. If you roll a crit or a wild, they take a damage. And for anyone that takes damage, they drop all objectives they are holding.
Oh, good.
It's such a good card. And it doesn't need to be used during anyone's activation. It can just be used. So it's a pretty damn good card.
Those, however, have to be, awake to pay the power.
They do.
Important.
Yeah, they do. They do. I quite like Green Goblin Quinn. It for me feels like a character that still lacks a little bit of something. And I don't
needs just a little bit of help, doesn't he?
And I'm not quite sure exactly what it is. And I suppose he is a leader, right? So there is the argument to say that actually the leader doesn't need to be the best character in the affiliation.
But he's not the favoured leader in his affiliation anymore, which I
don't think he is. Yeah.
Kind of demerits that argument to a degree. Hit and run going to a charge would be cool.
Hit and run going to a charge. I'd also like.
Go on.
I was going to say, on the front of his card, perfect candidate for scientific hubris.
He is something of a scientist himself. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Why is Knight of the Goblin 4 power?
Feels like it should be 3.
Like compared to the other kind of 4-threat spenders in the game, that's a 3 cost one.
3/7/3 feels about right. Yeah, like that feels.
Yeah,
it feels about right. I'd also like to see Trick or Treat when an enemy character ends a movement. Like that could, rather than it being specifically advanced or placed, because it means that throws don't work. It means that pushes don't work. I'd just like to see that to be
the whole trap house thing, right?
Yeah.
Like
I would like to see that as well. So I think
just get rid of Arch Nemesis as well, because it's kind of just a nothing ability.
Get rid of Arch Nemesis, replace it on this side with scientific hubris.
Something of a scientist himself. Yeah.
Reduce Knight of the Goblin from 4 power down to 3. And again,
at that point, you probably don't need to give him a charge.
I don't think he. Yeah, I don't think.
That point.
I don't think he needs that. And then again, I'd like to see that Trick or Treat just be when a character ends a movement rather than anything else.
Also, just to make it a bit different, he gets extra power on wilds rather than crits, because he's not really it's Willem Dafoe. He does things a bit different.
He does do things a bit different. You wouldn't be able to call it scientific. Maybe I'm something of a scientist myself.
Something of a scientist myself. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. He does need a little bit of help, Quinn, doesn't he? And they just say
he feels a bit Frankish, doesn't he?
He does. He does. I would argue he needs a little bit more help than Frank.
Whereas I think they're pretty much on par, but I think because Norman is a leader, he needs that help more in terms of him getting that help arguably helps a number of other characters that are in that affiliation, right? That maybe don't see play under Doc Ock.
Yeah, I feel like here is about right. Is a good place for him.
I think so. Yeah.
And Sequin is for
CEO of Oscorp.
CEO of Oscorp. Excellent, excellent. One of your other favourite names of people within a particular Marvel universe, Quinn. A particular Sony universe, Sony Marvel universe, but mainly because of the character that plays them or the person that plays them.
I don't know. Like, yeah, sure. I like Emma Stone. Who doesn't? But also, Haley Steinfeld as well. Like, Vi from Arcane.
That is true as well. Yeah, that is also true. So it's Gwen Stacy, aka Gwenham. So it is, it's worth pointing out, Quinn. This is also the same character as the aforementioned in the previous videos S tier Gwen Stacy with Ghost Spider. So you can't run both of them at the same time in the same roster. But this character is very, very different with what she does. 4-2-3, 6 stamina on her front. I think she keeps 6 on her back. No, she goes up to 7 on her back. Size 2, long move, medium base. Symbiote spider technique. As with all Gwen Stacy attacks, Quinn, there's a lot of text. So 3-5, power equal to damage dealt. If you've already attacked the target character, you may reroll any number of attack dice for this attack. So already, Quinn, your second follow-up is pretty darn good. Or if she's already been advanced or placed during its activation, after the attack is resolved, it may advance long. And by the way, sorry, I said or then. You can trigger both of these by being able to do it. Maximum Gwenham. This is going to be her healing one. 3-7-3. After the attack is resolved, you remove damage equal to damage dealt, and then on a hit wild, it's rampage. After this attack is resolved, 1 damage to each of them in a character within 3 of this character. Pretty good, like builders and spenders there, Quinn, to say the least. But I mean, really good for generating the power. But what's she going to spend that power on, Quinn? Because she's got a Dark Rage, interactive terrain feature, or enemy character.
It's a decent throw.
So what she gets is it's size 3, but it's medium, right? So not as good as a Bill or a Bishop, because it is only size 3. But I think that's fine, right? It's not an S tier throw, but it's an A tier throw. But pick on someone your own size. Cost 2. After an attack targeting another allied character is resolved, this character may use this superpower. If the attacker is within 3 of this character may make an attack against it. You can only use it once per turn. So it's a clapback, but it's a clapback of them hitting somebody else.
Yeah.
Which I quite like.
It's pretty good. There is one issue I have with Gwenham.
Go ahead.
It's just every time I played her, she's just never had any power to do anything. And I don't know what it is about her. She just doesn't generate power, and I don't know why.
I mean, I feel like symbiote spider technique is pretty darn good.
I'd argue it's pretty standard if you haven't already hit them.
Oh, well, yeah, but I'm talking about that second...
power gen and things like that, yeah, sure, it can be great for, like, mobility if you run, like, Midnight Suns and get a place or whatever. But, like, I don't know, there's just something about a kit that just doesn't...
Do you know what I think she needs?
Do power for some reason. I don't know why.
Do you know what would solve the power issue?
Go on.
Right? She's a spider person, so she gets spider sense. She's a venom. she should get symbiote instincts.
Mm,
And all of a sudden, I think so. She gets spider sense
yeah.
and symbiote instincts. To clarify, symbiote instincts, the target character that you're attacking
Can't
cannot modify
when
at
defending,
all.
yeah.
So turns off rerolls, turns off cover, so you don't get cover or anything like that. And I think that would solve. I think that would sort it out.
It's either that or, and I know this doesn't actually address the power gain issue, but would just make her feel a little bit more like a symbiote is. I'd like a bleed on her builder. Like, you know how
she
Venom does
doesn't.
auto bleed?
She doesn't have bleed, does
Just
she?
slap a bleed on there. Yeah, which feels wrong. And I know that technically her symbiote is like nanomachines or something stupid. Like, it's not actually a symbiote, but like she's called Gwenom. Like, come on.
She's called Gwenom. Yeah, exactly. Somebody in the chat will tell us, or in the comment section will tell us where she's actually from.
I think it's something to do with like she gets given a nano suit by Shield in an alternate universe or something. It's something
Okay.
like that.
So it's not actually
Stupid
a
comic
symbiote.
bollocks.
So it's not actually a symbiote.
No,
then?
it's nanomachines that replicate. No, it's nanomachines that replicate a symbiote or something.
Oh, okay.
It's really, it's really weird. Like,
Let's talk about her other problem, Quinn. She is in one affiliation, Web Warriors,
and it's the wrong one for someone called Gwen Stacy.
and there is a Gwen Stacy in Web Warriors who is. I mean, if you look at them,
every game,
character versus character, they do very different things. But she's a threat less,
yeah,
and is taken every. Ghost Spider is just for Web Warriors, just better, just so much better. At least under Miles Web Warriors, I just don't think there's a place for her in Web Warriors. And I think that's.
I mean, she's great on an all-webbed up turn, but so's other Gwen.
I mean, but most Web Warriors are all great on an all-webbed up turn, right? Like
she's extra good on an all-webbed up round because of the pick on someone your own size.
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
Right. It's still not great.
Doesn't bring any tactics cards, I believe.
No, because she came with Venomized, didn't she?
She came with Venomized, which I also don't like her model. I'm going to throw it out there. I don't like her whole model.
I like the model. I like the fucking guitar. It's great.
No, I don't like it. Like, I really don't like it. And I get I get it's part of it. I don't even know if it's optional. I haven't built her yet. But
you don't have to put her on it, but like you'll lose a lot of height.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just not a fan of the guitar thing. And I get it's part of a character, but like, you know, you're in the middle of a battle, like playing a bloody guitar.
To be fair, that thing is bladed. Like, no, she's like whacking someone with it.
It's just a bit too on the goofy side for me, if I'm being honest.
Also, isn't she meant to be a drummer?
Is she the drummer of the? Because she's in a band, right? I know that much.
Yeah, I think she's the drummer of the Mary Janes, not the guitarist.
Ooh, well,
She's definitely like a drum player in the Spider-Verse movies.
So Quinn, we're saying she needs a little bit of help. We're saying she's also been outshone by the other Gwen Stacy.
Like, arguably, the help she needs could come in the form of like a Ghost Spider-Nerf, right?
It could. It absolutely could. I wouldn't mind a good tactics card for her. She's a full threat. Like, it feels like one of the things that is becoming a bit of a prerequisite. Not for everyone, but, you know, to help.
Yeah.
Where in C do you think she goes?
Does she need more or less help than Goblin?
I think you give her symbiote the symbiote thing, and she's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think so. Like,
Because Venom has the symbiote instincts, doesn't he, as well?
I think so. Yeah.
I feel like I feel like Agent Venom's a little low on this. I feel like
Well, he was the first character that we rated. Like,
I think he was, wasn't he?
yeah,
And he's been pushed down a little bit, but then looking at these others, I'm like, yeah, I think he should be
yeah, he probably should be a little bit higher.
a little bit higher. Yeah. Okay, Quinn, and C is for.
Cop for a dad.
Didn't you use that last time?
No, she went in S tier last time. How can
Oh
I
yeah,
use that?
okay. Yeah, good point. Good point. Okay, Quinn. Next up, we have got Gwenpool, aka Gwendolyn Poole, which we learnt a lot about last time we ranked her. The fact that she's from an alternative dimension with retcon powers and has nothing to do with Deadpool or anything whatsoever.
And also isn't like just isn't Gwen. Just
Isn't
a different
Gwen.
person called Gwen.
Yeah, isn't Gwen. So we learnt a lot last time. 434, 6 stamina. She's got some stabby sword. She's got a bag of tricks. She's got a big spender that's got scorched earth on it. Dishes out incinerate and stun, which can be brutal. If she's got the better version of places. If you're not holding an objective token, I mean, it's the worst version, but it's the version that we should have in the game.
It is the version that all places should be. Yes.
Yeah, she's got plot armor, and then she's got retcon powers activate. While this character is attacking or defending during the modified dice up of the attack, it may spend X amount of power, up to 3. You may reroll one of your attack or defense dice. I quite like that. Like, that's not, it's not bad. I think it's on point. She brings a couple of cards. No, try this one. During the cleanup phase, you get to use it. Choose an unused tactics card from your roster and put that in the game. So you're basically like swapping it out, which
it's so shit.
Like, just take the ones you need. Like, it's
like
just take the ones you need. Like, you can only take so many anyway.
Like, if every affiliation had, 10 tactic cards that they could choose from in addition to all the other stuff, maybe it'd be viable. But it's not.
Yeah. And then they say keep your enemies close. This is Squirrel Girl or Gwenpool. 3 power. During the next attack made by this character that played this card, if that attack targets an enemy within 1, the target character the target character rolls no defense dice during the attack. During the next attack made by the character that played this card, if that attack targets an enemy character that is not within 1, after the attack is resolved, place the target character within 1 that played this card. I mean, if you're within 1 and you want to take something off the board, fine. But she doesn't really have, I mean, other than this end towards the target, which, can take somebody off. But that has Scorched Earth, and it's all other characters, not all other enemy characters. So you'll be giving yourself incinerate and a damage. It's not great, Quinn. It's not great. She is not particularly good.
There is a further damning bit of evidence for this character.
Go on.
She's not the best character on her model.
She's not the best character on her model, no.
Just the disappointment that's how we get Jeff in this game.
I know. I know.
Jeff is good enough to be in the starting lineup of Marvel Rivals. Why is he not an actual character in this game? Why does he come with a Jeff token that does nothing?
She's Air Force, she's Avengers, she's Crimson. She's not very good. She needs help.
Does she, or is she exactly what this character should be?
I mean, is she a joke character? Is that what we're saying?
That's what I feel.
I mean,
Like,
let's be honest, right? Stabby swords is not bad. It's got a pierce on there, and with her retcon powers, she can re-roll, right? Gwenpool's bag of tricks, it's another gainer, and she can dish out bleed, shock, incinerate, or poison. But there are lots of characters that can do those two things, and I would argue do it better. So I think she's. I mean, she's got like some stuff, but just as a package, I just don't feel like it works. Like
she's got nothing interesting to her, is the issue, I think. Like, there's no flavour to her.
no,
And like, yeah, like
it's a
you've
bit
got
like how they
these-
missed.
oh,
It's a bit like how they missed the mark with Deadpool, right? Like,
Yeah.
and also, how is Gwenpool a threat higher than Deadpool? Like,
because she's got Jeff on her base, isn't it?
to be fair, and nothing with Jeff either, right? Nothing. He's not even mentioned on the card. Not even mentioned. I think she needs a little bit of help, Quinn.
I think so. Like, just she needs something to actually make her stand out against literally any other four in the game.
Yeah,
Because there
especially
is
where
nothing unique about her.
especially where she is, right? A-Force, Avengers, Crimson. Well, let's talk about A-Force, Medusa, right? Avengers, I don't know, pick from one of the 98.
Black Panther,
And then Crimson, Killmonger, who
Kingpin
arguably
himself.
kill things better.
Right.
I mean, does the blast thing push? I don't think it does it? No, it doesn't.
No.
Yeah. Does she need help as badly as Blade, or not quite as much as he does?
Who do you see get played more?
Oh dear.
Yeah. The thing is, the odds are that Blade is going to go even further into D2 without help the moment Elsa comes out.
The only thing keeping him top of D
is
his leadership.
He's so bad.
Yeah, really not good. Really not good. And D Quinn is 4.
Don't bother asking. I'm you know, Emma I didn't give an alphabet because I was genuinely angry about her existence and form in this game. She's not getting one because I don't care enough about her existence in this game to give her one.
She is a bit. I mean, to be fair, that entire box with Squirrel Girl is a bit of a nothingness box.
It's such a nothing burger. Like,
yeah, like, and I'm sure there are people that have taken her and she's done good things. But
there will be people out there who like really love her as a character and like, great. I'm glad she exists for you guys. Doesn't mean that I particularly like her any more than I do.
No. Do you know what I'd love to see? Just on the pool side of things.
You want Anth to have his own model.
I want Anth to have his own model. No. The Deadpool core at some point has to be a leadership, right? 5-threat Deadpool, and he can take any other Deadpools with him. Like that'd be cool. That would be cool.
I am sure that is great for people like you who think Deadpool is the height of comedy.
I don't think it's the height of comedy, but I love me some Deadpool.
I think it's. I think most of those movies are carried by the supporting cast.
Oh no, I'm not talking about the movies. I'm talking about all the comic books and the game and like.
I never really gelled with him as a character. I don't know why.
Oh well, he's a merc with a mouth. Like the guy speaks to my heart. Cool. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Quinn. On to another member of Asgard now, Hela, Queen of Hell, aka Hela. 4s across the board. Medium base, medium move. It feels like that's almost a baseline for Asgardians right there, if you're 4 threat. Hellforge Blade, it's got a bleed on a wild, it's range 3, it's quite nice. Claim Soul, she captures souls. We'll go into that in a moment. Range 4, 6 strength. It's Mystic, cost 1. Reign of Hell, 373. I mean, look at that, Quinn. It's 373, like we said with Goblin, but this has got an explosive on it. And they don't get to count wild results when they're defending, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
We'll get onto Army of Hell in a moment because that feeds into all of the stuff that she does. Death's Embrace, choose an enemy character within 3, advance the chosen character short. Then, if the character is within 1 of the chosen character, excuse me, you roll 4 dice. Crit and wilds, you do damage to them basically, and then you get to heal off the back of it, which, yeah, for 2 power, it's not bad actually. Because for 2 power, just a range 3 short advance is fine. With the kicker on the end of it, then it's pretty good. Obviously, Asgardian. And then she's got Goddess of Death. This is the other way that she can generate those soul tokens. So when anybody else is dazed or KO'd, she gets a soul token. She can only have 3 at once. So on this side of a card, the way that she spends them is through Army of Hell. Discard 1 or more captured soul tokens during the next Hell-Forged Blade or Reign of Hell attack made by this character this turn. Add 1 die to its attack roll for each captured soul token that was discarded. If a captured soul token was discarded after the attack is resolved, the target character gains the bleed special condition. But it can only be used once per turn. So, she can do a 7 dice builder or a 10 dice Reign of Hell.
You can do an 8 dice builder.
8 dice. 8 dice builder, which is pretty good, right? Pretty good.
Yeah.
Take a look at the flip side. Everything stays the same apart from 2 things. Queen of Hell, so another way for her to be able to spend those tokens. If this character has 3 captured soul tokens, when it would be KO'd, you may use this superpower. Remove all damage and captured soul tokens. This character is not KO'd. But she only has 4 stamina.
Which means that she's going down to typically 1 attack in the late stages of the game, which means she comes back and immediately gets hit again and dies.
Yeah.
That's just how she works.
That's her biggest problem.
Or rather, how she doesn't work.
Yeah, and it means that you are very reluctant to, on her...
Spend the tokens.
On a healthy side, to spend those tokens and do those big attacks. Because when she goes down, you need to make sure that she goes down with 3 tokens. Otherwise, it becomes very, very difficult. Especially because Claim Soul, you need to do damage to gain a token. It is not guaranteed. She's also up against a lot of competition for 4 threats in Asgard. And she's just... I feel like if she was released earlier, she'd have come with grunts. And she'd have had the Army of the Hell. She'd have had... She's an ultimate encounter, and she comes with little tokens in that. Like, I feel like
the dead Asgardian kind of... Yeah.
I feel like they would have been her grunts. There'd have been either 3 of them on a medium base or 2, or 2 of them that she can bring out on a small base, and they'd have done other stuff, right? Maybe they were aggressive, maybe whatever. Maybe you could blow them up and just gain a token. That's another way that you can do it. But I feel like even with the rework that she had, I don't feel like it was a big rework. I can't remember exactly what it was.
She gained Death's Embrace, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, she did, didn't she?
Oh, and I think Claim Soul went down from 2 power to 1.
I think it used to be 2 power. Yeah,
And
it
maybe
used to be
Reign of
2
Hell went
power.
down a power as well, but like they're kind of inconsequential in terms of like they don't address the root problem with Hela.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. And it is that 4 stamina Queen, isn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah,
It's 4
like
stamina.
I'd argue that what's it called? Queen of Hell could be a completely different superpower, right? So let's say you make her 6/6,
Yep.
because that should be the baseline of what she is, right? So for a start, why is there a cap on the number of soul tokens she can have?
Because
Why don't you just implement a cap on the amount she can spend at any one time?
it's fair. It's fair. I mean, I know the reason. I know the reason why.
Because there's only
It's
3
because
bots.
it's a finite resource because of what's in the box. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's stupid, and I don't like it. Like, limit her to maybe boosting her attacks by 2 dice at most, with 2 souls. And then give her a new ability that is just, you can call it Queen of Hell if you want, if you don't want to come up with a new name for it. And just have it be instant recovery, but attached to soul tokens. So,
Yeah.
after an attack against Hela is resolved, if she's not dazed or KO'd, she may spend a soul token. She immediately heals 2 damage. The end.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be perfectly fine. Because I'd argue the other person who claims souls gets to do a lot more cool stuff with them, right?
He does so much more, and he can spend them on his version of Claim Soul.
Yeah, and he can his ability to use them is not limited to once per turn. So you can do them throughout his activation as and when he, needs different things.
And he can see the results before he chooses to spend them.
Yep.
Obviously, he spends them to get a different benefit, but it's arguably a better benefit than what she gets.
Yeah, yeah.
She's so disappointing.
She's very disappointing. Again, I get what they were going for with the whole she's gonna constantly come back and she's gonna do it. It's like she's not. Like she's really not. Yeah. Again, I do feel like designed now, she would be an Asgardian grunt character.
100%.
And she'd bring, the dead Asgardians that she brings back from the dead to fight alongside. There's like green soldiery things that's in the movie.
Yeah. Like,
and also
point, I just want a new version of her. I want 7 threat Hela with Fenrir behind her, like massive Fenrir behind her, and she has the grunts. Make her like genuinely terrifying and give her her own affiliation.
Well, I was also going to say, like, she's the queen of hell, right? She's a god that rules the underworld in Asgard. And you go, yeah, do you know what she's equivalent to? Daredevil. That's her power level.
She's equivalent to a funny-looking horse.
Yeah. Like, I just think...
to a funny-looking horse, because the funny-looking horse is a lot better than her.
She's nowhere near. Like, Hela should not be in 4 threats. I do think she should have been one of those characters that they just reworked, gave her a new card, made her even a 5 threat, right? Because 5 threats can do a lot more in this game. Also doesn't have access to a tactics card, Quinn, and this is becoming a bit of a, problem. But yeah, just not good enough. I tried her under New Loki. I tried her under what's not Hero of Midgard. What's the Lady Thor version one? What's her name?
Oh, Jane.
Jane Foster. Yeah. What's her actual name?
Mighty Thor.
Mighty Thor. That's it. Yeah. I thought I'd try her out in Dracula because she does bleed and she can do it, but it just doesn't work. She doesn't really have a home. She shouldn't be a 4 threat. Because again, like, because she's a 4 threat, you have to temper the fact that she can come back by only putting 4 stamina on her card, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So with all that down, Quinn, where do you think she goes?
She's like either side of Elektra.
I mean, at least, I mean, they've both had
Both had
reworks.
reworks, and they're still terrible.
I'm going to put her there
Sure.
for no other reason than why not. But yeah, should have definitely had grunts. Should have been at least 5 threat. And I get at the time. I mean, there was only one other 5 threat in Asgard, right? At the time, there was only Thor.
It was just Thor. I mean, there were very few 5 threats in the game. Full stop.
Yeah, she feels like a good candidate for it.
I feel like she just shouldn't have been released as early as she was.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And Dequin is 4.
Daughter of Loki in mythology.
Like it a lot. Invincible, Iron Man up next, Quinn. Tony Stark.
Ooh.
He is an Avenger and he's in Shield. This is the 4 threat version. We spoke about the 3 threat version previously. He is also a leader of Shield.
Yeah.
Let's mix it up. Let's do his leadership first, Quinn. When
It's
allied character
Wakanda.
is, yeah, when you're attacking, defending, or dodging, spend a power, reroll a dice. Great. We've not seen that before.
How unique.
So disappointing, Quinn. So disappointing. As a leadership, like there's so many things you can do in this game, and you've literally just
Copy and pasted.
like it's the same thing. I mentioned 4-3-3, 6 stamina, medium base. No, small base, medium move. Repulsor Mark II. Range 4, strength 5. Power equal to damage dealt. But if it did not deal damage, this character gains a power. And then on a wild, you get the push. So it is a Mark II version, right? That is a better builder than what other Iron Man gets. Because he doesn't have a rapid fire on his, does he, Iron Man? It's just a one-shot attack, isn't it?
No, it's just a one shot, but you can
One-shot
boost
attack.
it with the Friday.
Friday AI, yeah. But I like that. I like the fact that it's like, okay, you've whiffed, but actually you still get the power. I'm perfectly okay with that. It is a unrestricted push away as well, which is quite nice. But you have to do it. So you could be in a situation where you do it once, that's your only target, and then you have nothing else to do for your second attack because you've pushed them away out of range. But hey ho. $1 billion punch, 373. Before damage is dealt, put yourself within range 1, and then on a wild hit throw, as long as it's size 3 or less. And it is a throw away medium, which is quite that's not a bad spender, Quinn, I don't think, in terms of what he does and for the power and what he's got.
I feel like in the olden days it would have just been on a wild.
It would have been. But I think because it's got the place, so you get to choose. Like, it's not as good as taking away one of the triggers, but I think because it is on a place, because he's got access to the rerolls, only on his leadership, by the way, but because you can place where you want, you can get the perfect throw angle rather than...
There is something that irks me about it, and you know what it is?
Go on.
I feel like the only reason there's a hit trigger on it is because he was in a box with Steve, new Steve. Like, that's the
100%.
only reason. Like,
Yeah.
if those characters were released independently of each other, he would not have that hit trigger. And I don't think a character should be designed with an entirely different leader in mind, even if they do come in the same core box. Like, it just feels wrong. Like, you're actively inhibiting one character because of another character. Like,
No, it's fair. Focus Unibeam. You can kill yourself. That's all you need to know about that attack.
yep.
So double count wilds. Double count crit. So you get to add 2 dice instead of 1. But you. So I suppose. Actually, this is a better version.
You can only kill yourself if you're on 2 health.
Yeah, this is a better version because it is 2 damage flat. rather than War Machine, which is
But
just
also, like, if I'm doing a spender that's dealing damage to me, I want something a bit more than, oh, your crits roll 2 dice.
yeah. Well, because if you don't roll any
Because,
crits, I suppose then you don't take
yeah,
any damage.
or your crits don't roll into anything. Like,
Yeah.
just, yeah, great. You've taken 2 damage for nothing. Woo.
Jarvis, he's Shuri. I mean,
Woo.
and it's not bad, right? Like it's not bad
Just
that he
not
can do that.
exciting, is it?
It's really not. And then I am Iron Man, reduce damage by 1 by spending a power.
No, you're rich mid.
Whilst this character Quinn is perfectly fine, it is one of the most cut and paste characters we have ever had in the game. Like, there's nothing unique about this guy whatsoever. Is
Arguably
there?
the least original character in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really. Very, very disappointing. Nothing changes on his flip side, I don't think. No, nothing
It
changes.
doesn't even have that going for him, which Iron Man, like 3-threat Iron Man does. Like,
Yep.
he gains something cool when he flips. His character, nothing. Just the same copy-paste bollocks.
Can bring Stark Armory. I mean, we've gone through all his cards because guess what? They can all use the same cards. Or does he have?
Tony's...
No, does he have an Invincible Iron Man one? He does have Repulsor Refraction, which is the one we talked about with Captain America: First Avenger.
Oh, isn't it kind of crap? Yeah.
I mean, it does mean that he gets to do another thing.
Well, no, it doesn't, because it's an action card.
No, but I meant as in, like, if you do use your beam and it pushes them away, then... But it's just a beam for, like, 5 dice
5
attack.
dice. It doesn't even have anything, like... You measure the range from Captain America, what did he do? Like...
Yeah.
Why is it so boring?
It's not the bleeding edge Iron Man that we wanted, is it? Put it that way.
Like, if I was in charge of like quality control for character designs at AMG, if someone brought this to me, I'd just put it back in the hand and go, bring me back something interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're saying here, right? Isn't it, Quinn? Is that actually he's a perfectly, like, in isolation.
He's a fine character.
Nothing wrong with him as a character, but dear Lord, he is boring. And so unoriginal, Quinn. Just so unoriginal. But he's in a core box, and that's what we got. I mean, it feels. I mean, and this is the annoying thing, right? He's got a good leadership. He's got Jarvis is a good ability.
Yeah.
His build is good. Like, he's got access to some good tactics cards. Like, he's a pretty good character. And it annoys me that I'm going to have to put him as high as what I think he actually is. Because
he doesn't deserve to be there.
He doesn't deserve to be there. He doesn't deserve to be there at all. But we can't discount the fact that he is a good character. Now, where do we think?
He's somewhere in that smattering of Core Box 2 leaders with, you know, First Avenger Steve and Doc Ock, Scientist Supreme, or whatever he's called.
I would argue that he is probably better than those two as a character. He does a lot.
I would argue that that would be a true statement if he didn't pay for power reduction, for damage reduction. If it was innate, but minimum 1, I think he'd be much better. But I think because it isn't, he's pulled in too many directions in terms of his power usage.
Yeah, because of Jarvis and because of the Let's get you an upgrade.
Because
Yeah.
of Jarvis and I Am Iron Man, he's pulled in one too many directions. You know what would have been really good?
Go on.
If he had New Loki's leadership instead of Black Panther's.
New Loki's
That
leadership
would
would
have
have
been
been
actually interesting.
amazing. It'd have been really good for him as well.
Been really
It would
good
have
for
been
him.
really
It
good.
would have been something new at the time, and it would mean he can't use his own rerolls. Just
Yeah. He does have a power generation problem, doesn't he?
yeah.
He also doesn't have a beam attack.
Not unless you're spending a card and you're taking Captain America First
I'm,
Avenger.
I'm going to put him below Doc Ock.
I think that's fair.
Like, but as a character, Quinn, just oh my god, like just boring as hell. Like, just not fun. Not fun at all. But hey ho, it's the Iron Man we got, not the Iron Man that we deserved.
I still
and
want the House Party Protocol Iron Man, where you
Yeah.
can use all the different Tony Starks.
Yeah. B Quinn is 4.
$1 billion blowout.
$1 billion blowout. Excellent. Okay, Quinn, one of my favourite characters in the game. I always try and use him in places. It is Killmonger, aka Njadaka. I've probably butchered that, but I feel like it's about right. Vibranium weapons, pretty good. He's got a pierce on there. Black Ops Strike dishes out a stagger, places himself within 1. Oh, look, another 373, Quinn. He's got a charge. Special Forces is interesting. You get to count blocks instead of hits in your results.
Yeah,
So it's
like,
completely
it's niche,
situational. Yeah, it's completely
like,
situational.
If it's good, right?
Yeah. Focused on the kill. When you make a second attack against a character that you've already attacked this round, you get to add 2 dice. So all of a sudden, he goes from a 5 builder, 7 spender to a 7 builder, 9 spender. And then, Quinn, kill count. When this character dazes or KOs an enemy character, you get a token. You get to reroll 1 dice for each kill count token you have. There's no limit to them tokens, Quinn. So you can have as many as you want. I really like him, Quinn. Usurp the Throne is exactly what that sort of card should be.
Yeah. 100%. Like, it is the archetypal, get a reward for killing something card, and anything that isn't that now feels just worthless, right?
100%. 6
also
stamina on
has
his...
access to a couple other cards.
Yeah, because he's got because of the Njadaka name, isn't it?
Yeah, he can have Killaluna's Glory and Synthetic Harp-Shaped Herb, which is interesting. The Heart-Shaped Herb one is actually genuinely very interesting, because he pays 1 power, gets poison, and then gains a size 3 terrain or character throw, which is kind of scary.
It is kind of scary, actually. And
It's
I
3
like...
for range too short, but still.
No, but it's terrain or enemy character. And on a character that can generate a lot of power. Now, the problem is, Quinn, is that on this version, are you investing 2 cards into him? Because that's quite a lot to put in.
Yeah.
But I really like him.
If you've got nothing else to spend the card slots on, why not, right?
That is fair. I think he's solid, Quinn. I've played with him a lot. He's obviously Wakanda. He's also in Cabal, because, of course, and he's also in Crimson. He's definitely overshadowed by some shiny new stuff. But if you can get a power onto him early doors, he snowballs throughout a game. And because he's a character that can get better and better and better as the game goes on and on and on. I really like him. Anyone that's been a fan of the channel for a long time will know my unaffiliated roster with him. Killmonger riding Lockjaw into battle. It was back in the good old days of advanced R&D and whatever else that we had. And I think losing some of the tools to turn him on early does mean that, he's probably not as good now, but he's pretty solid. I really like him, Quinn. I don't think anything needs to change on him. I think he's a perfectly fine character.
He's got the epitome of what a 4 threat should be in my eyes.
And I do think he gets bumped up a little bit because of Usurp the Throne. I think that you have to take that into consideration.
High B for him normally, and then Usurp I think bumps him in just into the bottom of A, because I think you can splash him.
Well, I mean, you can splash him. I've splashed him in a lot of places, and I think, again, being able to score those extra VPs with a character should not be underestimated. I would be happy to see him there, Quinn.
Yeah,
I think
that's where he deserves to be.
I do really like him. A Quinn is 4.
Ardent activist.
There we go. Another Killmonger next, Quinn. Killmonger Usurper. Another one. This one is a leader. So he came in the Warrior Falls pack, I want to say.
Yep. That lovely no-backed terrain piece.
So bad, that terrain piece. A very different version of Killmonger. First of all, he's bringing in leadership. Strength of the new generation. During the power phase, choose up to 3 allied characters. Give each chosen character a herb token. While a character with an herb token is attacking, it may spend its token to add 1 die to its attack roll. At the end of the round, when removing activated tokens from characters, remove all herb tokens. A character that has a herb token suffers 1 damage and gains 1 power. First of all, Quinn, thumbs up, because it's not a reroll, right?
It's interesting.
It's actually interesting.
A new mechanic.
Newish. We've had tokens before, but I get what you mean.
We've had tokens, but not ones that did exactly this, right?
No. And I think as a leadership, Quinn, I'm perfectly fine with it. It does something a little bit different. There's some play there that you can play around and take some healing factor characters with you, and that one damage becomes inconsequential because you're just going to heal it off anyway. Pounce, we know what Pounce does. Untamed Force. If you're within 2 after making an attack, you may after an attack targeting this character, basically get to slap them back, which I do really like. Vibranium weapons is identical. Power equal to damage dealt with a pierce. Covert armament is quite nice. The fact that it gets the little, if you're within 2, they can't modify the dice. And then Killy Luna's Fury. I'm not a... it's another one of those. It's 3/6/3, but extra dice equal to...
He's been using his leadership on himself consistently.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. But, I mean, he could use that token and get the extra dice anyway, rather than taking the damage and doing... But
round 1, he's most likely not going to get to spend the token anyway.
No.
So he's taking the damage off the back of that, and then you're spending the token in the next turn to do an 8 dice spender.
Yeah.
Where they
Which,
can't
at that
modify.
point...
It's not bad.
At that point, it becomes pretty good, yeah. I think it's fine. My problems with this version of Killmonger are, first of all,
he's called Killmonger.
I can't take original Killmonger. Second, because guess who really wants to use this leadership, Quinn?
Love it.
Second problem is he comes in a very expensive terrain piece, which I really hope they've done with now and move away from. Thirdly, he's up against some stiff competition in
Yeah.
Wakanda for leadership. And that's the biggest crux for me, is that there are multiple other leaders, one in this list already, may arguably another one in this list who are more popular and arguably better than him.
Yeah.
So he's low down the pecking order. And I think with the other leaders, like, okay, generic under under OG Black Panther, he doesn't mind it. He gets a reroll. Under M'Baku, it's okay. He does nothing for the other version because he's got no pushers whatsoever. So I just don't know where he fits in everything, and that's my biggest problem with him. Is even though he's a leader, unless you're specifically building around him, I don't really think he has a home.
I also think like he's kind of just lacking in mobility. I know he's got a pounce, but that's not quite enough, you know? Like small base medium move with like a potential pounce doesn't feel great.
No, because at least,
Especially like when he's up against his old self where he can charge and has like range one placements off attacks.
Yeah, you can charge with a range 3 attack and then have a range 1 place at the back end of it.
I feel like this guy needs aggressive because it would also help his Untamed Force.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, aggressive would be really good on him. It would be really good on him.
Be like, you know, that little thing that he needs to help him out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's definitely under the curve, Quinn. I think an aggressive would be really nice on him, and it would bring him. It wouldn't make him S tier, but it'd bring him in line with with some others. Do we think because of that little change, he kind of doesn't quite make it into B tier?
I think because we have to like counterweight him against the fact that there's a better Killmonger that is the same threat. He has to go into C because unless he himself becomes better or that Killmonger becomes worse, he's just never going to be the primary option. I don't think.
It feels like he's either side of Frank.
Like that, yeah. I feel like Frank needs more help than he does.
Yeah, I would agree. And Sequin is for?
Colonialism is bad, okay?
Okay, kids, okay. Okay, Quinn. Wilson Fisk up next, a.k.a. Kingpin.
He's so good.
4-3-3, 7 stamina. Short move, but a medium base. Size 3. Headbutt, range 2, strength 5. Stun and a poison. Sorry, stun and a push on a wild. It's a push away, and it's size 3. Cane laser, no cover, but beam 3, strength 4.
If the cane laser had power gain on it, it'd be brilliant.
Yeah. Hail to the King, 2-7-3. Before damage is dealt, size 3 or less, throw the target short. After the attack is resolved, they gain stagger. This is a really nice spender.
Neither thing is conditional. They just happen. It's so good.
Just happen. And Quinn, you always get the throw because it's before damage. Timing is important.
Yeah.
This means that even if you spike the dice and you're going to one-shot them, you still get to throw them first and do all of the extra things that you get to do.
Honestly, for 3 power and an action, I would gladly just go, yeah, I'll pay 3 power and an action. I'll throw this character and stagger them.
Yeah.
But you get a 7 dice attack on top of it. Cool.
Yeah. We're going to skip the next bit because we'll talk about that. Street level negotiations. Guess what, Quinn? Spend 2 power. Terrain feature or enemy character size 3 or less within 2. Throw it medium. For 2 power, this is, again...
This is like an A+ throw.
Yeah. It's not S tier, but it's an A+. Intense physical conditioning. If you suffer damage, you spend 1, reduce it by 1. And then solid frame. This character does not suffer damage from collisions with other characters. So terrain coming at him is going to suffer damage, but if you throw other people into him, or indeed him into other people, then he's not going to take any damage. Let's talk about illicit network, Quinn. Leader, the OG leader of Criminal Syndicate. Once per turn, at any time during an allied character's activation, it may spend 2 power to use this leadership. Move 1 asset or civilian token being held by the active character to another allied character within 3. A character cannot hold more tokens than allowed by the crisis due to this leadership ability. So if it says you can only carry 1, you can only carry 1. That's fine. Additionally, each healthy allied character contesting an objective token counts as 2 healthy characters when determining who is securing the objective token. So what does that mean? It means if you've got 1 character on a point and your opponent has 1 character on a point, you win it. If they have 2 on a point, you draw. They need a 3-to-1 ratio to be able to take that off you. It's so crazily good. Crazily good.
Best leadership of the game?
It is up there.
I think it just flies. Like
it is definitely up there. So it is a leadership that has diminishing returns because it is only healthy, but the lead that you can get by just going ahead with this is crazily good. Crazily good. Kingpin himself, very good character, but he is susceptible to a few things. That short move does mean that he, a throw is essentially a stagger on him because he's going to have to use it to get back in place. But, he does have access to multiple throws in his turn. And they don't cost a lot. Plus displacement on his headbutt. I think he's really good, Quinn. I think as a character, he is B. But that leadership,
high B at that though.
A high B. So yeah, a high B. But that leadership pulls him up quite significantly. And the question is, Quinn,
he's not.
Where does it pull him up to? God no. No.
Like he doesn't need nerfing. He's fine, but he's high A in my opinion. Just by virtue of that leadership being so good.
Yeah.
If this leadership was on a lesser character, it'd still be you'd still see a lot of play for it just because of how good it is. But it's not on a lesser character. It's on a really good character.
Yeah, it's not like the old Steve situation, is it? It's
no,
it's pretty good.
No,
Let's have a quick look at this A tier, Quinn, because it's a bit all over the shop at the moment. I'm not putting him there, by the way, but I'm just saying,
to be honest, I'd be happy with it there, but sure.
But then it still makes me look at Dynamo and Bill. And just be like...
I don't think Bill is as good as people say he is. He's only good right now because Hero of Midgard is busted. Right?
Yeah.
That is not Bill being good. That is another character being in need of a major nerve.
Yeah. We're going to leave it.
Honestly,
and we're going to put it... and I'm going to put him there.
You know what I'd do? I'd move Bishop to just below Dynamo, and I'd move Panther next to Kingpin. I think Panther's a better character than Bill. Full stop. Ooh. You know what? I'm going to
I don't know.
You to make your bed and you can lie in it.
I think Dynamo. We're going to do that. We're going to do that for the moment. It can always change. It can always change people. And Aquin is for.
A is for associated with very legitimate businesses.
Yes, he did. Very, very legitimate. Lady Sif up next. Lady Sif up next. Quinn.
Let's be honest. You're not going to go up to Wilson and tell him that you don't think his business is legitimate, are you?
No. I'd send Ron, and even then I'd be worried.
Even then, you'd be a bit worried.
Yeah, Lady Sif Quinn. 6 stamina, 433, so a little bit, a little bit under in terms of
standard for a 4, I'd say. Like
I'm thinking more Asgard in general, but she does have battle tested, reduces damage. Warrior Born is perfectly fine. Like a push with a follow up is quite nice. Warrior Forged, again, a push and then an advance. It is. Oh no, sorry, it's a throw and an advance. I do apologise. But again, it does require those 2 triggers. She's got access to a charge. She's got Master Swordsman, which is quite nice.
No. Master Swordswoman.
Sorry, it does say Master Swordswoman as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's a different ability because it has a different name.
Yes, yeah. So this is... No, it is the same ability, right?
It's the same ability.
It's the exact same ability. Yeah.
Different.
Asgardian, and then as we mentioned, battle tested. I've played with and against her quite a few times. She's fine.
As have I.
Like, I think she's absolutely fine. The problem is,
I'd argue
she's a 4th.
Bit
I think she's perfectly fine. I think she's just up against tough competition, one of which is a 3-threat in Valkyrie.
And therein lies the problem. There is one thing. There is one rule on her card I would swap out for another one.
Would you
I
give
would swap
her
out Master Swordswoman for Warrior of Legend?
Yeah.
Because it even fits with the theme, because you go Warrior Born, Warrior Forged, Warrior of Legend. Like, it just works.
What about swapping out Master Swordsman with a range 2 bubble with a reroll in it?
No. She doesn't need to be more like Zemo. She's already like bad.
She is a lot like Zemo. Yeah, she is a lot like Zemo.
She's bad Zemo because she's a threat more. Like, you gave her Warrior of Legend, she'd have a little edge on him,
That is true. I mean, she does have throws. She's got displacement, so she does bring other things than what Zemo does.
She's got a throw attached to an attack. That's she had an actual throw. Brilliant. That needs a trigger. That is also fair. I think she's fine. Like, I don't actually think much, if anything. Like, Master Swordswoman's fine. Battle Tester, she does fine. She does fine. I played Dr. David Cameron, not that one, played her in my game against him at the event recently. And she's fine. Like, she did work. She gets about a lot. Like, she's a bit of a menace. She can dish out some reasonable damage. I think she's fine. She's not exceptional. But I don't think anything really needs changing. Very unimpressive.
I don't think anything.
She got a
really
card at all.
No. She doesn't.
Because they gave Loki like 5 cards in that box and her none, right?
Yeah, which does bump her down a little bit, I think. But for me, Quinn, she's towards the bottom end of B, probably the other side of Colossus.
I don't know. I think she might be a bit better than Colossus. Like,
yeah,
like.
There.
Once again, I'm looking at those Black Order characters. I'm like, do you deserve to be in B? Does Corvus without a gem deserve to be in B?
Yeah. I don't know if he does, you know.
No, like just without the gem, he kind of just sits there and does nothing.
Do you know what? I want to do this. He doesn't have a lot of power, does he?
I would put Corvus lower than Ancient One.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not too sure about New Killmonger being in B, but sure.
I think bottom end is fine. I think bottom end of B is fine.
I think he'd be bottom end of B as he was if Killmonger didn't exist. I think that bumps him back down into C.
Yeah, fair. Fair. And B Quinn is 4.
Battle tested.
Nice. Okay, Quinn. Next up is going to be Logan the Wolverine. Again, in a very expensive box.
Whoa.
442. He does all the things that Wolverines do, Quinn. Healing factor. What he does isn't very nice. It's pretty good. It's got to throw off the back end of it, actually. He's got the get out of my head thing, which I do quite like. It's obviously, it's a bad thing on his card, but I do quite like it.
You know?
It's very, very thematic. His X-slash is very good. Like, very, very good. Power equal to damage dealt, place within 1, and a pierce. Range 3, strength 5. Tornado Claw is pretty nice as well. On the hunt, this for me is what makes his character Quinn. When he makes an attack, if there are no allied characters within 3, you get 2 rerolls. He is on the flank, doing stuff, doing it really well, goes up against most characters toe-to-toe, and holds his own. Unless he starts taking mystic attacks. But, you deploy correctly. Has access to all the James Logan Howlett cards. We don't need to go through them again. He's in Uncanny X-Men, Weapon X. And that's it, Jonah, isn't it? And it wasn't this one. It wasn't this one that he was doing, was it? It was the other one.
No, it was this one.
Was it this one?
Yeah, the other one is in X-Force.
He was playing X-Force, wasn't he? Yeah. I think he's fine, Quinn. What's weird with this version, we often talk, don't we, about, Killmonger, there's 2 of them and they're trying to fill the same role. So-and-so, there's 2 of them there. I feel like this version and then the Wolverine version of Logan, they have very distinct places. I very much see, like, this version of Wolverine is what you take with Storm. The other version of Wolverine, the 4th threat, goes with Cyclops. And I feel like they don't want to occupy the same space, if that makes sense. So I quite like that. I like the fact that they're not really competing against each other for a place in the same squad.
Yeah, I'm curious as to how he feels now that Exceptional doesn't exist.
Well, I think all characters with healing factor are just not as good as they were because Exceptional doesn't exist.
But I think specifically for like this version of Logan, because he's off on the flank on his own and doesn't necessarily have any support, I think it might hit him harder than it has hit most of the other healing factor characters. Because he doesn't have that failsafe anymore.
Yeah, that is very, very fair. Does he change much on his other side?
I don't think so.
I don't really think he does he? And he also retains his stamina on the other side, whereas a lot of the other ones, they lose their stamina, don't they? They lose stamina. And he can continue to contribute to points and things like that. I think he's solid. Like, I do agree. I would have probably said with healing factor, he would have been in and around the A tier. But because that's gone,
he's just like, he's a high B, right?
Yeah. And I'm looking at that Steve sandwich we've got, and he probably goes somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'd probably put him just above Gamora. Maybe he's the top of the Steve sandwich. Maybe he's the
I,
sauce.
I feel like he's probably here. Feels like a good spot for him. I
I,
think
I
it's.
would also like to make one amendment in B tier while we're here.
Go ahead.
I want Amora to bump up one.
Fair enough.
I think she's better than Iron Man. Like,
I think she probably is, to be honest with you. I think she probably is. And B Quinn is 4.
Bub.
Nice. That's your one use of Bub. You don't get to use it again.
Well, I'm not going to use it again this video. Oh.
No. Loki, God of Mischief, next, Quinn.
So underrated.
Obviously, gemless, very underrated. Very, very underrated. Does all the attack types, which is nice. I Am a God makes this character so good. And the fact he's guaranteed to be able to turn it on every single turn, at least once. Trickster's nice, stops him, gives him some additional survivability. But God of Mischief, Quinn, on this side, everyone within 4 must spend an extra power before using an active or reactive superpower. On his other side, they also don't get to explode crits, which means that he just has such a, on the right setup, has such a board-wide impact.
Yeah, it's huge.
He has a problem though, Quinn, in that there is another Loki. And whilst they don't fill the same role, the other Loki is definitely the most popular and the leader of choice at the moment for Asgard. But I think Loki as a 4 threat can go other places and cause problems.
I will also add, just because there will be some people watching that don't know about it, there's an interesting thing with the timing of I Am a God, which is the fact that it says before rolling attack or defense dice, you can use this power. When he's being attacked, that means he sees the initial results of the opponent's roll before paying for this ability, because he hasn't rolled his dice yet.
Yeah, so after dice roll, but before crits, he gets to make an informed decision. Do I want to spend the power and count blanks?
This is specifically on defense, though, and he only sees
just on defense.
Roll.
Yeah. No, that's what I was saying. Sorry. Yeah, so before the opponent explodes their crits, which is the opportunity where you roll your dice, before you do that, you get to take a look. But you're right, you get full information about it. Yeah. Dishes out slow with his beam. It's only a beam 4. Does need to do damage. I mean, to be fair, you're not really that bothered about Loki's attacks. He's not there to make attacks. No. He's there for his range 4 bubble. That's very annoying. I like him, Quinn. I think he's underrated.
I think he's great. Like, I remember a long time ago, before we knew about like the new Asgard box being on the horizon, I played a lot of Asgard in prep for some events, and I played Loki nearly every game because he was bloody brilliant.
Yeah.
Just the power generation you can get from slapping someone with a strike with I Am a God on it. Like, you're basically Corvus. It's brilliant.
Also worth noting, Quinn, that this Loki has access to Giant's Blood.
He does now, yeah.
Which is even more survivability for him. He's also sibling rivalry, right? What a great card that is. So he brings some stuff with him, and he's an annoyance, and he's a nuisance. Again, I think he's a very, very underrated character. I think he just sneaks into A, if I'm being brutally honest.
Oh,
it's a big call, but
I think
causing your
If you-
opponents to have to spend one more power. And then turning off crits.
You know what the one thing keeping him out of A for me is?
5 stamina front and back.
Yeah, if he just had one more stamina somewhere, or even like one on each side, he'd be so much better.
I think that is fair. And I think I would... Yeah. I think I'd be happy to say... You got to remember as well, this version of Loki is often paired with original Thor. And he can remove conditions, he can heal himself off that, which does give him that little bit more survivability as well, doesn't it? But still,
Yeah.
5-5 is rough. 5-5 is rough. So you probably are right. But I feel like he's at the top end of B.
I think so.
Question is where?
Is he the character that displaces Steve 1? Because he's kind of reversed Steve 1, right?
I mean, he counters Steve 1.
Yeah, he's like he's the inverse effect of Steve 1.
I mean, he basically has a leadership.
Also, I know for a fact people are going to be fucking fuming about this placement, right?
Oh, 100%.
They're going to be like, the pitchforks are going to be out, and guess what? I don't care. He's going top of B.
I like him. He's really good. And Bequin is 4.
Blood of the Jotnar.
Nice. Again, really on point with them. M'Baku, aka M'Baku. The other leader for Wakanda, that is 2-3 that we've had on here now. A little bit, it's a little bit congested in old Wakanda at the moment, Quinn, for leaders, isn't it?
I mean, I argue that there's a bit of a power struggle going on if you've got that many leaders in your
Almost
affiliation.
like there is, isn't there? 4-2-4, 7 stamina, size 3, medium move. Small base or medium base? I want to say he's a small base. Yeah. I think he is a small base, yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Let's go over his
Yeah,
leadership
he's
first.
a small base, but he's a massive model, right? That's
He's a
the thing.
huge model, yeah. Blessed by Gekra. Again, I've probably brutalised that. Once per turn, when an allied character is contesting an objective token and would be pushed or placed by an enemy effect, roll a die. If the result is block crit wild, the character is not pushed or placed. So it's Winter Guard with a little bit of extra on there because it's also placed, not just pushed. But then additionally, once per turn, when an allied character makes an attack, if there are one or more wild results in the attack roll, you may change one die to a hit. So they basically get a watered down version of Deadliest Woman in the Galaxy, right? It's not for each one, it's just for one. Leadership wise, Quinn, it's fine. Like, it's nice. It's something a little bit different. Don't mind it at all. Think it's perfectly fine. Yeah. Strength of the White Gorilla, size 3, range 2, medium. It's 2 power. Again, it's fine.
I mean, it's not fine though, is it? Because it's not a character. Like,
I didn't read that. Yeah,
terrain throws are always worse than character throws because terrain is a finite resource on a board.
I misread that. I misread that completely. Yeah, not having also, character on there.
If any character was going to be throwing other characters, like it's a M'Baku. Like, it's big.
He does have it on the Wrath of the Jabari. I know, and it is guaranteed, but yeah.
Make Strength of the White Gorilla 1 more power, make it just, like, even if you make it just characters and not terrain, so much better.
Chieftain of the Jabari cannot be pushed or advanced by the special effects of physical or energy attacks from characters of size 3 or less. And then he's got the solid frame as well. Like, fine. Like, immunity stun.
Why is he 2 energy defense?
2 energy really hurts him. Really hurts him.
Knock the stamina off his front side, make him 3 energy, and he is like, you know, pretty much perfect, right?
Yeah, his knob carry, 3/5, power equal to damage dealt, pursuit on a wild, push on a crit, fine. And then as we mentioned, Wrath of the Jabari, range 2, strength 8, cost 4, size 4 or less, throw it, and it's guaranteed and it's before damage. And then on a wild hit, you may advance short and then make a knob carry attacking a different character. Obviously, if you've got him as the leader, it
You
just
can then use
gets
that leadership there,
easier because you get
so
to
it
do
just
the
becomes a wild
change.
trigger. Yeah.
I've seen him played with the other version of Black Panther quite a bit because he's got the
Yeah,
push.
the push. Yep.
Again, he needs... Give him 6 stamina, but give him 3 defense. Or do you know what? Give him 7 stamina and 3 defense. I think that's fine. Like, I think it would be absolutely fine. But 2 stamina is...
Right.
2 stamina's rough. Nothing changes on his other side other than he goes down to 6. So I think because he already goes down, I'd be fine with him being there. Again, a lot of other characters that he's up against in Wakanda.
Yeah, a lot.
I would say he brings some more playability because, at least he doesn't have another named character that he's fighting against, which is in his favour. He does bring another leadership that is definitely viable, right?
Yep.
You can definitely play that card. Killmonger, Usurper doesn't mind being under him because if he's getting a wild, then he's also getting the pierce, and then he also gets to do a change another dice. I think he's fine. He's worse than original Killmonger, better than new Killmonger. At least he's got a place. At least he's got a place. And synergizes a little bit better with some of the other characters in affiliation. Somewhere around Iron Man-ish.
I was thinking somewhere around Electro or Sif.
I feel like he's better than Sif.
I think he's better than Sif, but I think the position he occupies within his affiliation puts him more towards that end of the spectrum.
He is also Crimson, and he's not a bad Crimson character because he can't be pushed off or advanced.
Yeah. 2 energy, though, for a Crimson character. Just
2 energy is...
Gonna die. Great.
2 energy is rough, isn't it?
Gonna die to that damned raccoon. Brilliant.
Everyone dies to the raccoon, Quinn. Everyone dies to the raccoon.
Almost like the raccoon could do one.
Are we okay with him here?
I think that's fine.
I think it feels fair, doesn't it? It feels fair. And B is for...
Bald-headed demon.
Bald-headed demon. Okay. Next up, we have got the other version of George Tarleton. MODOK, Scientist Supreme. The 4-threat version. I don't like this character, Quinn. I'm going to throw it out there.
He's fine.
I just prefer OG MODOK.
That's fine.
But he's a leader. He's a Crimson leader. I'd argue
because he needed to be a Crimson leader. Yeah.
3rd least played. I feel like it's Kingpin, Shadowlands, Daredevil,
Fisk guy,
MODOK,
right?
and then Claws over here. I don't know.
For a start, this character shouldn't exist because it was clearly designed to be in a Rivals panel with Immortal Hulk, and I will die on that hill, which is why I'm bringing it up again, because that's what he is.
Didn't they clarify?
I'm going to get a confession out of Pagani about this.
But didn't they clarify that it was supposed to be Abomination who was in that Rivals panel? I think they've clarified that before.
Nah, lies.
335, 7 stamina on his front, 5 on his back. So overall 12, it's fine. He's got all of this, all in this world is beneath me. All in this world are beneath me. Sorry, it's rerolls, which are fine.
It's re-rolls paid for by another character, though.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
He can also just go, "You take this attack. I don't want it anymore."
Yeah.
Which again is quite nice. He adds blanks against psychic attacks, which is fine. Sorry, mystic attacks, but also mystic is his strongest defense. So it's like, okay, it's still susceptible to the others. Psionic Assault could easily be 373. Gives out stun and there's an advance on there. Advanced idea mechanics. This is how we get aim. Once per turn, when an allied character is attacking or defending, if it's holding or contesting an objective token and has one or more wild results in its roll, change one of its dice to a hit or a block. So again, fine. Like, it's not a reroll, at least.
Like, like, it keeps that little bit of OG MODOK that, messes with wilds.
Messes around with wilds, yeah.
Why is his throw short?
Yeah.
It's
Old
so
MODOK
bad.
threw long.
Yeah, like, because it's terrain only, it should be a medium throw.
Yeah.
Like, because that's always the thing. Like, a terrain throw should always go longer than a character throw because of the way that they're measured and where they're measured from.
Yeah, that is fair. But
it's not great.
I think, do you know what? I'm not a big fan of him because he just doesn't. He's just not a character I like, this version of him. But I think he's perfectly fine. His leadership's okay. His superpowers are fine. You can take him as a leader and he's going to be okay. I think for me, he doesn't dish that damage out like OG MODOK that I really like.
He was never going to, though, right? Because OG MODOK is a 5 threat whose only purpose is to do damage.
Yeah.
He's a machine organism designed only for killing.
Yeah. Doomsday Chair does have an incinerate on a wild, and you can choose energy or physical. And a range 4/5 dice attack is quite nice.
Yeah, he's one of those leaders that like sits back and keeps himself safe. I think once again, and this happens it's happened a couple of times. We didn't need this version of the character.
We didn't need him at all.
What we needed was a MODOK with literal aim lackey grunts. That's what we needed. Which is once again why I think that this guy was part of the Rivals panel that they decided to bait and switch on. I think he was initially just meant to be a different sculpt, and then they realised how poorly the Spider-Man and Doc Ock one did, and they pulled the plug. But they'd already done some amount of work in terms of designing the model, and therefore went,
you think he was just an alternative sculpt?
Yeah, I don't think Immortal Hulk and MODOK were ever intended to actually be those versions of the character. They just ended up being them because they already had the sculpts done.
But where's the history of Hulk and MODOK being rivals?
It's because, my thinking of it was because they were released as opposites of each other when the core box initially released, and it's like a brains and brawn kind of thing. And I know, Banner is smart, but that's the whole thing of Hulk, is, he becomes really strong, but he's not quite as intelligent, right?
Yeah. I'm almost certain I heard something that it was supposed to be Abomination.
But that doesn't make sense, because then you're releasing a character in their only iteration in a Rivals pack, which has never been the MO,
No.
right?
There was never going to be a Rivals pack. That it was going to be... They were just going to be released alongside each other. I don't know if they were because I can't remember who came out with Immortal Hulk, but yeah. He's fine, Quinn. He's perfectly fine. Simpleton, I'll do it myself. He does get the Abomination card as well. He gets to throw Abomination medium.
Which is pretty scary, in fairness.
I do quite like one of my favourite Team Tactics cards in the game is Mind Games because it's completely different to anything
It's
else.
so good. It's so good.
So he gets bonus points for that. And then Simpleton, I'll do it myself. Again, is a way of scoring VP. So he does some cool things. He's fine. Like, yeah, like he's fine. I don't think anything needs changing on him.
No.
I think he's hovering around Doc Ock and Iron Man, like it's somewhere in between there, like in terms of a character.
I think just because, there's some originality to him as a character, he gets to go above Iron Man.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Like, this ranking may not hold true in a game sense, but I don't care. And that's never what these tier lists were ever about. We just pretended they were to bait people in.
And B Quinn is 4.
Big brain.
He has a very big brain. Cool. We're going to speed run a couple here, Quinn, because otherwise this will end up being 4 videos instead of 3. Medusalath, Amaquilin, Boltagon, Quinn.
Character that got nerfed. Still really good.
Still really, really good. Braid Bash is exceptional. Split Ends, fine. Hair Flip, it's just enemy character, but that's fine. Like, could cost the power less, but with everything else she does, and her ability to generate power is very, very good. So that's how it balances out. Royal Decree Quinn is very nice.
It's what she does.
Yeah, Inhumans, so inbuilt attack and defense reroll. And then Living Strands. When advancing or climbing, enemy characters cannot place their movement tool overlapping this character's base. Meh. Enemy characters cannot modify or change attack dice when targeting this character with attacks.
Much better.
So those 3s across the board kind of hold up a little bit more because there's no dice modification in there. Yeah, she's just solid, Quinn.
She's really solid. Split Ends cost too much because almost all area attacks do.
All area attacks do. Yeah, absolutely. It could be 4 or 5 feels about right.
Yeah,
5
like 5
probably.
Because it's got the reroll attached, like 5 feels fine,
Yeah, but costing 6 is just way, way too high. But really, Braid Bash, Royal Decree, and then the bottom half of a card is really good. Immune to Poison used to be a thing, less so now because guess what? There isn't the Crisis Terrigen Cloud. But she's solid, Quinn. She's in Inhuman. She's also in A-Force, I want to say.
Yeah. A-Force.
But good, solid character. Doesn't bring a card, I don't think. She was before the time of cards.
Before she came with bitter rivals. That's what she came with.
She did. So she used to be on a card, but then they took it away. Where do you think she sits, Quinn?
Probably just below Gamora.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's very, very fair. Definitely works better in affiliation, getting the extra power onto her, or in fact, both of her affiliations, getting 1 extra power and then being able to use Royal Decree off the bat. Pretty good.
Again, I'm going to motion for another bump for Enchantress. I think she needs to be better than Steve. Right. I think she just does.
Fair. I think that's fair. B Quinn is 4.
Boltagon and McQuillan.
The wrong way round, but never mind. Mr. Sinister Quinn. We've not had a Servant of Apocalypse for a little while, have we?
I mean, we might as well not have had one. He's terrible.
Nathaniel Essex. I love this character outside of this game.
He's got a bunch of gimmicks and none of them work. Like, there you go.
Well, they do. Such fun little playthings is perfectly fine. Like him as a character by himself is fine.
I think
The problem
becomes
is,
worse because he has a tactic card.
yeah,
It's
I mean,
really weird.
his tactics cards just they're a trap, right? They are absolutely a trap. It strikes like it's absolute baseline, but it's energy, so I'd argue slightly better than physical, not as good as Mystic, but it's all situational. Genetic
Range
splicing,
3 as well. You know, it's nice.
yeah, actually, yeah, range 3, so a little bit on there. Genetic splicing, fine. Like it's the way that he gets his extract tokens, or genetic sample tokens. Sorry, recombinant disintegration. I don't know how many times I've played this character. I don't think I've ever used that attack.
It's because area attacks are massively overcosted, just like we said with Medusa. Ooh.
Yeah. Engineer perfection, cost 0. Remove any number of genetic sample tokens from this character. Remove 1 special condition from this character for each token that removed. Fine. Like allows him to remove stuff. It is one of those things that lets you, remove stagger before it would trigger, so perfectly fine. We've already mentioned such fun little playthings. Genetic negation, again, fine. Spend a power and a token. Give them root. Like, I feel like because tokens are such a finite resource, it could have just been a token to give out root, and that would have been fine. But I think where they mostly use Queen on him, if people are playing him, when you suffer damage, remove tokens and reduce the damage by that amount. That's where I feel like I use them for the most part. And then DNA database, only 3 at a time. Like, let's talk about his cards really quickly, Quinn, because I do believe they are a bit of a trap, or at least cloning banks is.
I feel like he would genuinely be better off as a character if they removed cloning banks from the game.
Yeah,
because it would allow them to redesign him in a way that made him work.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think he should just have a flat thing where DNA database should say anytime this character deals damage to an enemy character, he gains a sample token. You then remove the genetic extraction off the splicing, and you make it into a beam that maybe generates power and can do conditions or something.
Yeah. So forced extraction, spend 1. 3 characters within range. 3 characters within range 3 suffer a damage, and then he gets 3 tokens basically, or 1 token equal to the amount of damage suffered.
Spent an entire tactic card for that.
Yeah,
terrible.
It's not great. And then the biggest trap of all, Quinn, cloning banks. You basically pump these tokens into the cloning banks, and then you can bring another character on the board who was in your roster, equal to the half the number. Place an unused character from your roster with a threat value equal to half the number of genetic sample tokens removed. So you need a lot.
You always round down in this game because that is a flat rule.
Yes. Well, no, you round up in this game.
Oh, but does he specifically round down?
This broke it because this was rounding down. Right. So this was because this used to round up, but then they added that in there, I believe. They errated this card and added that in, I think, because of that reason, and it was FAQ'd as well. It's a trap. Sinister again. I think even as Famine or Pestilence, I don't think he's doing enough. Is he bad enough to go into the realms of D, or does he just
because he needs a genuine rework to how his core mechanic works? He has to go into D.
Yeah, He's got this. He's got the Hela problem, hasn't he?
He's got the Hela problem, yeah.
And do you know what? I'm going to put him below Hela because I feel like, at least with Hela, you do that once and you realise. But cloning banks, I think, catches a lot of new. They feel like, oh well, being able to bring another character, but it's so late in the game. If you
It's
ever
so late
do
in the
get
game,
to do
and
it,
you've wasted 4 threat for however many rounds that you've spent to do it, because specifically when he's playing 4 cloning banks, Sinister does nothing.
no, not at all. And Dequin is 4.
Devious villain, just not in this game.
Nicholas J. Fury Jr. up next, Quinn.
The only real Nick Fury, yes.
He's pretty good, right? He brings his Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Last line of defense. He's a pretty good leadership. I feel like it's been overshadowed with Namor.
It's not that good.
I think it's perfectly fine.
The best part about it is situational. The aggressive is like non-existent.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like I've only seen that aggressive used a handful of times, and like it was only by Ron.
Fury special, range 3 with a Pierce, but it is only a flat gainer. Tactical knife, power equal to damage dealt with a Pierce and a bleed on a wild, which again is quite nice. And then lead from the front, 3/7/3. After the attack is resolved, an allied shield agent's character within 3 of this character may advance short towards the target character. Then they get to make their pistol attack targeting the character. They roll 4 dice, Quinn, and we all know
4 dice is the best number of dice.
Best
But
number of
because
dice.
Shield, it's 4 dice with a reroll that gains
4
Fury
dice
power.
with a reroll. Yeah, his agents give him power. Standalone Quinn is pretty good. Okay.
Yeah.
When you start adding in the tactics cards,
Yeah. I am this guy specifically.
also calling the cavalry. If there are no shield agents character in play, spend 2 power, place it within 3,
They get a free interact.
and they get a free interact. Yeah. Let's talk about his plethora of tactics cards, because he's got a lot. Well, he's got 3. Life model decoy. I'm not a fan, right? It's not what I remember us talking about.
With Vapors of Voltor, it wasn't going to work with this. AMG learned from your mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Reposition. Spend 2 power to play this card. If an allied shield agent's character is on the battlefield, place an allied Nick Fury within 1 of the shield agents. There is no restriction of if this character is holding an objective, they drop it.
This card single-handedly killed the best extract in the game.
This was Mystic Wakandan Herbs, right?
Yeah. One of my favourite extracts in the game. One that you genuinely had to think about when you played it. Like, an extract that worked how I want all of them to work, where they only score in a specific area.
Yep.
And then they brought out this and decided, rather than getting rid of this card, we'll just ban herbs. Brilliant.
And just to clarify, that's not the worst of his cards, or the best, depending on which side you're looking at it from. Quinn, you mentioned it earlier, Eye in the Sky. When an allied character is targeted by an attack, Nick Fury may spend 3 power to play this card. The target character, by the way, board wide. The target character makes a short advance. If at the end of the advance, the character is outside of the attack's range or line of sight, the attack ends. If it is the attacker's activation and the attack did not target multiple characters, the attacker may make another action. So, that unto itself, Quinn, as a tactics card, as a one-off hit, perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable. But if you are using the shield affiliation, not Nick as a leader, if you're using any shield affiliation, return this card to your available team tactics cards during the cleanup phase. This card may be played again this game. This is, I mean, it's one of the best tactics cards in the game, Quinn, right? Like,
that's a bold statement.
It's
very good.
Good. There are only a couple of
cards.
One
of those things where when you play against it, you just have to bite the bullet and go, I'm going to miss out on the important attack each round. And just try and get it out of the way as soon as possible.
Yep. And it's brutal and it's really annoying. Worth mentioning as well that the shield operatives, they're the ones that can pick up objectives. They can't contest them. And when they drop them, they get to place them instead of you.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit annoying.
It's so good.
I think if we were doing this a little while ago, Nick would have been higher up. I do feel like I've seen a lot more people playing Namor as the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. lately.
I've really not seen much S.H.I.E.L.D. at all.
Still with Nick in play, I've seen a lot of S.H.I.E.L.D. They were very. I played in my 6 games at the last GT I went to. I played 2 S.H.I.E.L.D.s.
Really? Okay.
They are still very, very prevalent. You know, not as prevalent as some others, right? You know, but they're still 4th best win rate of any affiliation. But I think Nick's pretty good, if I'm being brutally honest. And that card bumps him up even higher. I don't think you're ever playing him anywhere other than S.H.I.E.L.D. No. And I think because of that card, you are perfectly fine taking Nick even under another leadership. And he still does work for
you. Maybe. I just don't think they do enough. Like, he, in and of himself as a character, doesn't do a whole lot.
I think he does.
He can be really scary if he gets, like, you know, his power gain on the go and has, like, lead from the front. But he doesn't have any tricks. And I know he's got, like, eye in the sky, but that's using that on other people typically. Like, he in and of himself doesn't have tricks.
You've got Eye in the Sky. He's also got his other card as well, right? Where he just moves, reposition. Like
nobody plays that card.
What? Where you can just move Nick Fury?
Yeah, no. I have since Herb's got banned. I have never seen that card again.
Yeah, maybe.
Because the grunts were almost always right next to him. Because that's how he works as a character.
He does power up a lot. He gets a lot of power from the grunts. I just think he becomes a bit of a battery as well for all of the cards that they want to play. I think he's good. I don't think he's, Kingpin good. I don't think he's Steve 1 good. But I think he's a decent...
feels around Steve First Avenger good, if we're being honest.
Yeah, no, I think that feels about right. I think somewhere in that sort of region. I mean, Eye in the Sky is very, very good.
It's very, very good, but it's very, very good once per round. And the moment it's gone, you just don't care.
Yeah, but depending on who is making that attack, like if you're up against a big character,
an entire thing of just like you can very comfortably play around it. Like, I think the worse you are as a player, the more impactful that card is.
I think that's fair.
And the better you are as a player, like the better you are as a player, like it gets to a point where it is effectively negligible in terms of its existence.
The biggest one I always see,
where you can make multiple attacks.
Yeah, the biggest one I always see is people charging when this is still up, using their charge. Whereas what you should do is you walk in, realize you're going to lose an activation, then go to hit, then they use Eye in the Sky, and then you get to use your charge, which effectively gives you your 2 actions to then be able to get into range and hit them. I feel like he just ekes out new Steve. I think that's probably perfectly fine. Let's finish Quinn on Nightcrawler, which is quite a nice character to finish on. Oh, sorry, I didn't do it. I missed it this time and you didn't notice. And B is for...
well, I noticed, but I didn't have a good one, so I let it slide.
Oh, no.
B is for best guy called Nick Fury, because let's be honest, the other one's
awful. Kurt Wagner, he might have one of my favourite names to say in this game, aka Nightcrawler. Pretty cool character, Quinn, with what he does. I feel like we talk a lot about how getting the essence of a character. This feels like Nightcrawler, right? When you are you're playing with him. 4-3-3, 6 stamina, medium move, small base. Teleporting strike is pretty cool. After damage is dealt, if this character is not within 2, the target character gains the stun special condition. I'm going to come back to Brimstone Blitz because there's some utter crazy stuff that you can do with it. Puff of Smoke, 0 cost. When this character makes an attack, after damage is dealt, you may use this superpower, place this character within 2 of the target character. So it's quite nice, especially a 0 cost as well.
And take note, Electra, it's free.
It's free, yeah. Unglaublich Acrobatics. Basically, add 2 dice to your defense against mystic or energy or dodge rolls. And then
physical or energy, but sure.
Physical or energy. And then invisible in shadow. When it's within range 1 of a terrain feature size 2 or more, characters must be within 3 of it to target it with attacks. So pseudo stealth. But if you put down a beam attack that blows the terrain up, you can still hit them. As my opponent found out in that game, Quinn, which was very amusing, wasn't it? He thought his little...
one of the few impressive things I've seen you do in this game.
Wow. So let's talk about Brimstone Blitz. And I did once do a video on this, but Brimstone Blitz, range 2, strength 5, cost 1 power. Add dice to this attack equal to the number of times this character has been placed this turn. So you can do an attack and then place yourself, which gives you 1 extra dice. So if you do a teleporting strike, Quinn, and then you do the Puff of Smoke, and then you do the Brimstone Blitz, you're already going to get 1 extra dice. But you can do Puff of Smoke again, because there's Flurry of Blows. So on a crit and a hit, after the attack is resolved, this character may make an additional attack action. This attack must target the original target character. Now, what's weird is because it's not saying you get to do Brimstone Blitz again, it's saying you just get to make another attack action. But that attack action could be spending another power and doing another Brimstone Blitz. So there's a situation here, Quinn, where if Brimstone Blitz could generate a power for you, you could essentially do infinite Brimstone Blitzes into the same character. So I once did a little experiment with Nightcrawler under the original Red Skull. So Red Skull 1. Because, Quinn, if you do damage with an attack, it generates a power for you. And I just wanted to see, out of curiosity, how many times it would take me to, first of all, get into a position where he could one-shot a Hulk. Or not one-shot, but take a Hulk out
One round of Hulk, yeah.
with in a single sort of activation. And it turns out it took me one attempt and it took 4 attacks and Hulk got taken out. It was pretty crazy, to say the least. So he's a cool character. That's not a thing you probably want to try and do in a game. But he's a pretty good character. He's a great starter character for the whole chain reaction thing with Xavier. Because he's got that 0 cost superpower, which is quite nice. Or even the BAMF, which is just, spend X, which again is quite nice. What do you think about his tactics card, Quinn? Because
I think it's shit.
I don't like it at all.
It costs an action and that immediately kills it.
Well, it effectively costs 2 actions, right? Because he gets stagger at the back end of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
Pick one or the other, AMG. You don't need him to do both, and also it's a lot of power.
It is a hell of a lot of power. Yeah.
It's a lot of power for the times when you would want to use it, which are early doors.
Yeah. No, I agree. So yeah, Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler, Quinn. I don't feel like anything needs changing on his card.
No, he captures the essence of the character. He's good.
I feel like he's
probably
an absolute
Fury.
Yeah, I was going to say an absolute banner carrier for what a good balanced character should look like. And yeah, with that, Quinn, we're going to finish off the others in part 3. Last chance this video, Quinn, to make any changes that you think need to be done.
First of all, B is for Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die. I want to move Steve, First Avenger, and Nick Fury down.
Below Doc
2 places each. Below MODOK.
I mean, MODOK does what Steve does.
For free.
But without paying the power and for defense.
Yeah.
Which is quite nice.
And I'd argue he's actually a better character in and of himself, because I don't think Steve, First Avenger, is actually very good.
And he obviously doesn't do the exact same thing, because with Steve, it's like if you've got a hit, you can turn any other dice into any other result. But I think that's fair.
Still.
We still don't have an S tier, Quinn, which is unusual.
Yeah, I don't know. Are we gonna get one? Are the 4 threats relatively well balanced?
I think they might be.
Or is it that most 4 threats are kind of crap, and therefore that drags down the average? And therefore means that, someone who's an A compared to the rest of the 4 threats is actually really good, but they're not. They don't need. It's not that there's no S tier because there aren't 4 threats that need nerfing. There are just too many that need buffing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's by far and away the most populous C and D we've had, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think it's because you just expect more. Yeah. From a 4 threat.
And I'd also argue that, that lower end of B also needs work.
You could argue, couldn't you? You absolutely could argue.
Right.
Yeah, just to clarify, guys, what we've said with these lists is that, A are really, exceptionally good characters, but they don't do anything that is so egregious that we think they need a nerf. B tier, perfectly fine. C tier, okay, but need a little bit of help.
Need help.
And then D tier is these guys, need a bit more.
Arguably need a full rewrite.
A rework.
Full rewrite.
Yeah.
Just fix them.
I do think, Quinn, that one of the things that 4 threats suffer from is, first of all, there's a hell of a lot of them. A hell of a lot of 4 threats. The space within a roster, rather than, like we said, with 3 threats, where you want to be taking at least 3, 4. I know you said, Queen, often you'll take 5 3 threats in your rosters. I feel like with 4 threats, you only want a couple. You don't want 3 or 4 or 5 4 threats in your roster. So there's a lot of them. You don't take as many of them. And I feel like, look at how many characters in this list have other versions of themselves. It feels like the 4 threats is where you get the duplication in names. And quite often, the 1 threat lower or 1 threat higher version of these characters are just doing a better job. So I think they suffer a lot because of that.
Typically, they're doing a better job and feel more like the character. So
Yeah.
it's a double whammy. Like, you know, it's a flavor and mechanic kind of difference, right?
Yeah. And I think as well, if you look at, like, you know, characters that are not... There's obviously exceptions to this rule, but when you're getting into 4 threats, characters that are not bringing tactics cards with them that have a big impact on their turns or outside of their turns really start to suffer, because where the game is going right now, with fewer and fewer neutral cards that can be used by anybody, you kind of need 4 threats to, you know, if you're only taking 2 of them, you want to probably bring 2 tactics cards with you. And, you know, if you look at that top rank, with the exception of Fisk, who just brings a stupidly good leadership, they're all bringing tactics cards with them or just have something that impacts the game so heavily. But yeah, there we go, Quinn. So no other changes from yourself? We all good with this so far?
I don't think so. I think everything else is fine.
Call out the biggest one. What's the one that people are going to shout at the most?
Oh, who are people going to shout out the most? I think there's still going to be a bunch of people going, Bill. Bill is not the problem. Hero of Midgard is the problem. How many times do I need to say it? There's probably going to be some people like, why is Panther so high? Because Panther's really good.
He's very good. He's very solid. That's a great pack. Panther and Killmonger box is a good box.
Oh, yeah. Like, double A tier, even this, like, far down into, like, you know, the game's existence.
It's not,
like, yeah.
It's not quite Miles and Gwen level of stupidity in a single box, but there we go. There we go.
I'd argue it's a lot safer than Miles and Gwen, because hopefully Miles and Gwen finally get what they deserve.
Well, who knows? Maybe one day. But we are going to leave it for there, guys. Thank you again to Quinn for joining me through these fairly epic videos. Thank you to everyone at home for watching them. Hopefully you've been enjoying them. Keep leaving your comments, guys. As you see, we are going through, we're reading them. And hopefully we've answered a lot of the questions around the Bill Dynamo. Basically, the question was, why is Bill not in S? That was the general question. And
because
hopefully
Bill doesn't need a nerf, Hero of Midgard does. There you go.
Yeah. 100%. I want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreon and YouTube supporters, Patreon members, YouTube members. If you want to support us, you can do so from as little as £1 a month. There's a link down in the description below, or you can just click that join button. But you don't have to do any of that. Just simply commenting, liking, sharing, subscribing really, really does go a long way. Also, shout out to Leodis Games, sponsor of the channel. They just make everything we do that much easier. Check out the Discord. It's where we post everything that we're doing. You can see what I'm painting at the moment goes on there, plus a whole bunch of other stuff, all of our events and things like that. And as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.
Nerf Web Warriors.